Since ancient times, the struggle between human dharma seekers and the undying has never ceased. It seems endless, as if there is no end in sight. Until the emergence of the Three True Dharmas sect. The three disciples from different timelines will act simultaneously at three different causal points under the guidance of the moon sigil of the Three Truths, the treasured object of the sect. Exterminate the source of these undead creatures, a monster that transcends causality, the karma-bound corpse immortal. But in the history of the Three True Dharmas sect, there was once a close call with extinction. On a day in the year 1854, the contemporary sect leader of the Three True Dharmas sect was talking to the disciples about the sect's past glory. As he spoke, he took out an ancient and simple tortoiseshell with the emblem of the Three True Dharmas sect engraved on it. This item is indeed the treasure of the moon sigil of the Three Truths, the sect of the Three True Dharmas. The eyes of the disciples were instantly drawn to this object. The next moment, the disciples discovered that the sect leader's head had already moved out. Should they bring it up? The sect leader's departure seemed rather abrupt. Everyone looked in horror at the killer in front of them. This is a nirvana corpse in armor. At this moment, it is holding up the sect leader's skull and drinking heartily. They say the fruit of forced labor is not sweet, but it seems satisfying. The sect leader was killed instantly. The fate of the remaining disciples can be easily imagined. In the end, only the little junior brother from the sect escaped with the protection of senior brothers and sisters, carrying the moon sigil of the Three Truths. Time has passed. The year is 1906 AD. That year, the one who escaped was little junior brother Ma Chao. Now he has become the 217th generation sect leader of the Three True Dharmas sect. At this moment, he is taking his three disciples, Gao Haoguang, out for training. While speaking, a withered ghost hand emerged from the cemetery. This is a twisted-faced Jiangshi, a type of zombie in Eastern culture. It hides during the day and crawls out from the underground at night to lurk around nearby villages and feast on the living. The master and disciple watched as the Jiangshi approached rapidly, hopping and jumping. Gao Haoguang took out a talisman, his gaze focused as the talisman in his hand started burning. The next moment, the talisman transformed into a golden sword and attacked the Jiangshi. But before the golden sword could touch the Jiangshi, it dissipated in the air. Gao Haoguang couldn't help but mutter, "The things taught by this old man are indeed unreliable." Ma Chao saw this and directly lifted his leg, stomping on the Jiangshi's face. He kicked it away and took out a talisman from his sleeve, casually throwing it out. The talisman burned fiercely in the air, and the next moment, a large gold ingot appeared on top of the Jiangshi's head. With a clang, the ingot fell down, creating a burst of golden light. By the time the golden light dissipated, the Jiangshi that was hit by the ingot had already turned into powder. After Ma Chao had done all this, the old man stood with his hands behind his back, pretending to be a master. Gao Haoguang was already accustomed to this. Although his unreliable master was usually undisciplined, once he got serious, he was quite powerful. The power of the talisman he crafted was surprisingly terrifying. What monster exactly made him feel despair back then? On the way back, Gao Haoguang couldn't help but voice his inner doubts. In theory, the master's master should be even stronger, so how could they almost be wiped out by that kind of thing? But when Ma Chao thinks about this, Ma Chao lets out a sigh in his heart. His expression couldn't help but reveal sadness. It turns out that there are many types of nirvana corpses, the one they just encountered. For some reason, it has turned into a normal corpse. Other than being strong and agile, it doesn't have much spiritual intelligence. It is not difficult to deal with. The one he encountered back then was a living corpse transformed from a deceased practitioner of magic. Not only does it possess spiritual intelligence comparable to humans and a body as tough as iron, but it also wields elusive divine powers and spells that are hard to grasp. The divine powers of Ma Chao and their senior and junior brothers were completely ineffective against him at that time. After Ma Chao escaped, he continued to cultivate in the unknown the three true the third Dharma palace. He also took in 3 disciples, while Gao Haoguang was the most special, because he was the one chosen by the moon sigil of the three truths. Ma Chao appeared dazed for a moment. He turned his gaze towards the young man, who was meditating with his eyes closed in front of him, only to see him pick up a talisman and form hand mudras with both hands. The next moment, the talisman turned into a flame in his hand, but it only lasted for a moment before the flame dissipated and the talisman turned into dust. Ma Chao sighed helplessly. "Silly boy, I told you that only the talisman created by yourself can fully exert its power. The talisman crafted by your master naturally doesn't even have half of its power. Young man, you still need to practice diligently." Gao Haoguang looked furious. Since he was 8 years old, he was deceived by this unreliable old man into joining the so-called Three True Dharmas sect. He did not learn any real skills, but he did pick up a lot of strange and quirky things. In short, none of them can make a living. In the course of the conversation, the two returned to the third Dharma palace of the Three True Dharmas sect. But at this moment, the entire mansion was surprisingly quiet. The master and disciple realized that something was wrong and hurried to find the figures of the senior brothers and sisters in the mansion. The next moment, they witnessed a scene in the hall that almost drove the two of them to despair. The senior brothers and sisters were being held by the head by a nirvana corpse dressed in armor. The living corpse that almost wiped out the Three True Dharmas sect back then has been summoned. Jiangshi gathers resentful energy at the throat due to its eyes remaining open in death. Inhumane, loss of rationality. And the body before me is the living corpse, which is transformed from a deceased individual who possessed magical powers when alive, also known as the arcane corpse. This type of nirvana corpse not only possesses spiritual intelligence comparable to humans, they also possess elusive divine powers and spells. It was 50 years ago. It almost wiped out the sect where the old Taoist was from. I didn't expect that 50 years later, it has come again. It still has 2 disciples of Ma Chao in its hands. Could the tragedy from before be about to happen again? Memories rushed into my mind like a flood that could not be contained. Looking at the gloomy expression of the old Taoist arcane corpse, his smile was filled with mockery. The reason it waited until now. It wants to eat Ma Chao's disciple in front of him. However, at this moment, a breaking sound resounded as the burning yellow talisman shot straight towards the arcane corpse. With a loud bang, the overconfident arcane corpse was sent flying by this sudden and powerful blow. 50 years have passed, and Ma Chao is no longer the naive young Taoist who was at the mercy of others back then. Gao Haoguang watching this scene was very inspired. But only Ma Chao himself knew that the level of attack just now could not cause any substantial damage to this arcane corpse. At present, all he could do was to try his best to hold it back, and buy time for the disciples to escape. It seems history is repeating itself. 50 years ago, it was Ma Chao's senior brothers and sisters who fought for him to get a chance at life. But this time he cannot escape anymore. He also wants to use his life to fight for a chance for the Three True Dharmas sect to continue. He then took out the sect's treasured moon sigil of the Three Truths. He handed it over to his 3 disciple, Gao Haoguang, who spent his entire life without being able to comprehend its secrets. Now, he had to rely on his disciple, Gao Haoguang. With a determined look, Gao Haoguang accepted the moon sigil of the Three Truths, as if making a decision. But the master, who had turned his back on everyone, said, "But also remember, do not force yourself. Live well." The disciple and the other 2 were extremely saddened as they watched the master's figure walking into the darkness. They knew. After today, they are afraid they may never see Master Old Taoist again. Old Taoist held back arcane corpse, and a few others took the opportunity to escape, starting to flee for their lives. Memories of the past with the master began to flood their minds. It's regret, endless regret. Why can I be so foolish? He has never repaid his master for all these years. A sense of powerlessness and intense hatred towards Nirvana corpse fills Gao Haoguang's mind. He didn't even notice that the hand gripping the moon sigil of the three truths tightly was already oozing with blood. The next moment, the turtle shell started to heat up. A mysterious energy wrapped around it and floated into the air, gradually forming a mark of the three true Dharma sect. In the center of this mark, a fuzzy phantom emerged, accompanied by a faint voice. When the Chosen One determines to bestow divine sanction upon the undying, it is the moment when our destinies intersect. Crossing the barriers of time, ask for aid from this humble immortal sovereign. As the voice falls, the disciples of our sect appear. The phantom within the mark also begins to clarify in the history of the three true Dharma sect. There have been three divine powers who were the best in the world. The Supreme Dharma Venerable, Patriarch Sanyi and Master of Mountains and Rivers of Life and Death, Patriarch Sunling. And appearing in front of the eyes, it is the Patriarch Jiang Mingzi, hailed as the Eternal Myriad Law's Immortal Sovereign. At this moment, he is at the third Dharma Palace of the three true Dharma sect, more than 1,300 years ago. Using the sect's treasure, the moon sigil of the three truths, he crosses the river of time to converse with his disciple Gao Haoguang 1,000 years later. Do you know how strong this man in front of you is? The heavenly Tao's attack couldn't harm him in the slightest. He can even make the heavens and earth change color. With 10,000 swords ringing out, this person named Jiang Mingzi is the patriarch of the three true Dharma sect in the year 525 AD, and is one of the strongest Dharma seekers in history. People all respectfully call him the Eternal Myriad Law's Immortal Sovereign. At this moment, he is using the sect's precious treasure, the moon sigil of the three truths, to cross the river of time and converse with the disciples of the sect 1,000 years later. Looking at Patriarch Gao Haoguang, who appeared before his eyes, is like grabbing a life-saving straw. He respectfully bowed towards the sky and spoke. If you are the great patriarch with divine powers from 1,000 years ago, please help my master. He is currently in a fierce battle with the arcane corpse, and his life is in danger. Senior brothers and sisters were very surprised by this sudden turn of events, because they couldn't see the moon sigil of the three truths. Jiang Mingzi's gaze paused on Gao Haoguang for a moment. After pondering for a moment, he passed on the method of breaking the game to his apprentice in front of him. After getting help from the patriarch, Gao Haoguang decisively turned around and ran towards the mansion without any hesitation. This move is very risky. A slight mistake would be as good as giving it away for nothing. Therefore, he did not explain to the senior brothers and sisters some things he knew. As he watched Gao Haoguang move further away, Jiang Mingzi's expression turned icy. How dare a mere small arcane corpse underestimate the great three true Dharma sect? After saying that, he saw him take out a talisman and casually throw it towards a prominent boulder inside the third Dharma palace. The talisman made a sound as it sank into the soil layer in front of the boulder. At the same time, Jiang Mingzi also carved a symbol on the boulder after completing all of this. This is the third Dharma palace in the year 525 AD. Jiang Mingzi planted a talisman here and informed Gao Haoguang of the location of the talisman 1,000 years later, in order to break the sect's impending doom. On the other side, Gao Haoguang, who was extremely anxious, finally rushed back to the third Dharma palace. He saw Ma Chao, who had lost an arm, being choked by an arcane corpse at that moment. Looking at Gao Haoguang's arcane corpse, which appeared in front of him again, its eyes were full of mockery, while Ma Chao was filled with despair at this moment, cursing it as an unfilial disciple. But Gao Haoguang ignored the two and began to run towards the direction in the third Dharma palace. The arcane corpse, manipulated by this move, was a bit stunned, but at this moment Ma Chao was already on his last breath, posing no threat to it. So, it threw Ma Chao aside and prepared to play with the little guy. And at this moment, Gao Haoguang also found the huge stone that the patriarch had mentioned to him. Moreover, on top of this huge stone, he found the arrow imprint left by Jiang Mingzi, but the arcane corpse's ghostly hand suddenly appeared. It was about to grab Gao Haoguang. With a loud bang, the sudden attack stopped the ghostly hand's fierce offensive. It turns out that Gao Haoguang's senior brothers and sisters rushed back. Although they don't know what the little junior brother wants to do, and know that they may die if they turn back, they still came. Ma Chao's heart was as lifeless as ashes, and a desperate hysteria showed on his face. Could it be that today, the three true Dharma's sect is really going to be completely destroyed here? But the one who answered him was a furious roar from Gao Haoguang. At this moment, he had already arrived in front of the giant rock. As he threw a punch, a powerful wave of magical energy radiated out. The arcane corpse's heart trembled suddenly. At this moment, he unexpectedly sensed a life-and-death crisis from this little guy. And the source of this crisis is the talisman held in Gao Haoguang's hand, the unbound sovereign sword formation talisman. The next moment, the situation changed drastically. Countless sword lights whirled in the sky. The sharp and piercing sound of swords echoed. It seemed like it could shatter the night sky. From a distance, a majestic sword formation surrounded the entire third Dharma Palace. The crowd was stunned by the scene in front of them. Even Jiang Mingzi showed a look of surprise. He was not surprised by the power of the talisman, but by this young disciple. He is actually able to bring out full power of the talisman he refined. As Gao Haoguang's finger fell, the sword rain in the sky began to sweep towards the arcane corpse. At the moment when the two touched, the so-called indestructible body turned into dust. After the sword rain instantly killed the arcane corpse, it pierced through the mountain and disappeared into the sky. Seeing his own painstakingly built third Dharma Palace being devastated by his own descendants 1,000 years later, Jiang Mingzi fell speechless. But this kid is indeed worthy of being chosen by the moon sigil of the three truths, but it's not enough yet. Right now, he is still missing an opportunity. As time passed, in the temple of the three true Dharmas sect in the year 2020, a teenage boy in school uniform was kneeling and sitting. And at this moment, what he is holding in his hands is the moon sigil of the three truths. This is probably the most lackadaisical patriarch I've ever seen. He clearly possesses the most powerful Taoist spell in the world. But he likes to transform into a female Dharma body to seduce some young sons. This person is the patriarch eternal myriad laws immortal sovereign Jiang Mingzi of the three true Dharma sect, also the patriarch of the young boy in front of us. Since the last time he used the talisman given by the patriarch to deal with the arcane corpse, the third Dharma Palace of the three true Dharmas sect has once again returned to its former peace. At this moment, Gao Haoguang's second senior brother, Huang Tugua, is carefully examining the moon sigil of the three truths in his hand. He can't figure it out. Whether in talent or beauty, he is outstanding. Why wasn't he the one chosen by the moon sigil of the three truths? Ma Chao laughed angrily and cursed. He took back the moon sigil from his hand. Ma Chao then casually threw it to Gao Haoguang, since his three disciples were the chosen ones of the moon sigil of the three truths, so it should be handed over to him for safekeeping. Gao Haoguang looked at the tortoiseshell in his hand and fell into contemplation. After a moment, he asked his master, moon sigil of the three truths, about the purpose of its existence. But old Taoist boldly stated that due to his old age, he couldn't remember the exact purpose of this treasure of the sect. Gao Haoguang was somewhat speechless, looking at the unreliable old Taoist in front of him, making him feel embarrassed. After angrily scolding him, as an unfilial disciple, he walked off towards the study in a huff. When old Taoist's figure disappeared, a girl walked out of the kitchen carrying a meal. This person is the first senior sister Miao Azure of the three true Dharma sect. But her nature is the most pure. She is often upset to tears by the pranks of Gao Haoguang and another person. After a round of playing around, Gao Haoguang suddenly discovered that the moon sigil of the three truths in his hand had inexplicably disappeared. Just as he was searching with a furrowed brow, the voice of Patriarch Jiang Mingzi came from behind him. At this moment, the moon sigil of the three truths has been activated again, breaking through the time barrier. The two time periods separated by over 1,000 years have established a connection once more. Jiang Mingzi is greeting his grandson through the moon sigil. Your name is Haobuang, right? From now on, he will call you Great Boy. Gao Haobuang couldn't help but roll his eyes inexplicably at the opening scene, silently lamenting that the emotions were out of tune. Could it be that this is an exclusive tradition of the Three True Dharmas sect? Jiang Mingzi was not concerned about this, still wearing a profound and unpredictable expression as he spoke to himself. However, he didn't notice a small insect flying towards him from behind. The next moment, this eternal myriad law's immortal sovereign, who is recognized as one of the strongest Dharma seekers in history, actually started screaming like a woman. Patriarch was actually afraid of bugs, but Gao Haobuang couldn't help it and blurted out, "What a sissy immortal sovereign!" But unexpectedly, the patriarch in front of him actually transformed into the appearance of a woman the next moment, and even claimed that 30% of his life was spent as a girl. He became the dream lover of many young gentlemen. Looking at the charming patriarch Gao Haobuang in front of him, he couldn't help but feel a chill in his heart. This guy is truly all talk, no looks. After some playfulness, Jiang Mingzi's expression changed, and he began to talk about the significance of the moon sigil of the Three Truths. The battle between the living and the nirvana corpse has never stopped. Even though countless seekers of the truth have fallen in battle, there is no possibility of completely eradicating the enemy. The fundamental reason is the existence of a being called the karma-bound corpse immortal. It is the origin of many undying, a monster that transcends karma. It exists simultaneously in the past, present, and future. It cannot be completely eradicated at any point in the cycle of cause and effect. Its endless restoration will render all your efforts futile. It is all as futile as water poured into a bamboo basket. Of course, all these conclusions were drawn before the appearance of the moon sigil of the Three Truths. After centuries of dedicated research by numerous patriarchs of the Three True Dharmas sect, they finally realized a method to completely eradicate their archenemy. It involves the moon sigil of the Three Truths selecting the right individuals at three pivotal moments to simultaneously vanquish the king of nirvana corpses. However, one person is still missing at the moment. But I, the immortal sovereign, believe that in the near future, he will definitely appear in this karmic cycle. The immortal sovereign wants you to become stronger, and then one day, together with us, eradicate this king of nirvana corpses. He can change the color of the sky with just a wave of his talisman, renowned among the myriad swords. This person is one of the strongest Dharma seekers in history. Eternal myriad law's immortal sovereign, Jiang Mingzi. At this moment, he is crossing the river of time for 1,000 years using the precious moon sigil of the Three Truths. Set up a game that can completely eliminate the karma-bound corpse immortal. And the white-haired person in front of you is Gao Haobuang, a descendant of Jiang Mingzi 1,000 years later, who is also chosen by the moon sigil of the Three Truths. After listening to the patriarch explaining the significance of the sect's treasure, Gao Haobuang is restless, but he does not intend to let his master and others know about all this. Old Taoist is already very old, and occasionally a bit senile. Let him rest. And first senior sister is overly gentle in nature. She is not suitable for taking risks. Second senior brother Fatty Huang is very cheap, but not bad. He is also the only hope of his family. I have been alone since I was a child, and I have no worries. Jiang Mingzi spoke with a hint of meaning, as if she could see Gao Haobuang's thoughts. Listen carefully. If you don't want them to get involved in danger, dig up the ground under your feet. There is a magical object that can save their lives, she said. Gao Haobuang glanced at the ground and couldn't help but mutter, "So troublesome." Seeing this, Jiang Mingzi chuckled and scolded. "You little brat, can't you be a bit more grateful?" After saying this, he took out a wooden box with the imprint of the Three True Dharmas sect. In the year 1906 AD, Gao Haobuang punched the ground beneath his feet. At the same time, Jiang Mingzi in the year 525 AD also hurled the wooden box and buried it underground. The two timelines are over 1,000 years apart. It's like Jiang Mingzi informing Gao Haobuang of the location of the Li Bao in advance. Then he buried the wooden box in his own timeline. And then, 1,000 years later, Gao Haobuang will dig it out. Gao Haobuang opens the wooden box. Inside the wooden casket are a scroll and a red leather book. Jiang Mingzi, although unable to see the expression of his young apprentice at this moment, continues to verbally tempt him to pick up the scroll. Because that scroll is actually a treasure that Jiang Mingzi has been refining for many years. As long as it is touched by someone, it will lead the people nearby into a trap set in advance by him. Those places affected by Jiang Mingzi's karma. Even if there is a long separation. He also wants to fully control this junior apprentice and turn him into his puppet. Unexpectedly, Gao Haobuang did not touch the scroll, but picked up the red book underneath, Mingzi Daily Record, which looked like a diary. But who writes a diary seriously? After saying that, he turned back to look at his patriarch, only to see that he was also looking puzzled at the moment. Jiang Mingzi felt a bit puzzled. When he inspected the wooden box, he clearly only placed a scroll inside. And the daily record is still on his own body at the moment. Why would it appear in the box along with the scroll 1,000 years later? Will he himself put this daily record into the box for some reason in the future? But this idea was quickly vetoed by Jiang Mingzi, because the things inside were absolutely not allowed to be seen by others. With that, he immediately stopped Gao Haobuang from opening the book. But this unfilial grandson of his is a stubborn little donkey. The more he tried to stop him, the more he piqued Gao Haobuang's curiosity. Jiang Mingzi is somewhat helpless about this. This kid is really quite interesting. It seems I'll have to stop writing first or switch to another book like Daily Record. The content left behind cannot be modified. Because causality that has already occurred cannot be changed. Not even someone as powerful as him can do it. However, at this moment, Fatty Huang on the side looked curiously at the scroll in the wooden box and reached out to pick it up. Gao Haobuang hurriedly stopped him when he saw this. But it was already too late. At the moment when Fatty Huang touched the scroll, a mysterious energy enveloped them both. Shortly after, they found themselves floating uncontrollably in the air. Soon after, the scroll emitted a buzzing sound. Leading Gao Haobuang, they flew towards the distant sky. Jiang Mingzi squinted slightly. Although there were some small hiccups, it could be considered that this kid was tricked. Let this immortal sovereign see how much this kid is really capable of now. Time passes by, and it is the year 2020 AD. Inside the shrine of the Three True Dharmas sect, a young boy opens a wooden box to find a book lying quietly inside. Haobuang Daily Record, which seems to be a diary. The boy silently muttered, "Haobuang Patriarch, please forgive this disciple for being impolite." And then he opened the daily record. But the information recorded on it caused his values to be somewhat overturned. Jiang Mingzi is a turtle egg. This is a bizarre village where they use living people as sacrifices to pray for peace. But they are not offering to gods, but to a Jiangshi. At this moment, Gao Haobuang and the others, who are enveloped in mysterious energy, are flying rapidly in a certain direction. Where will they be taken? They do not know. But it must be said that the flying posture of these senior and junior brothers is quite eye-catching. Unexpectedly, Gray Boy, at such a young age, is quite eccentric in his play style. On the way, Gao Haobuang was like Zeus descending, but instead of thunder, he dropped insults. He cursed Jiang Mingzi, the unreliable patriarch, in his heart 800 times. Just as he was about to start the 801st curse, the scroll in front of him suddenly trembled slightly. The next moment, the two of them actually changed direction directly. It led the two of them to fall towards the forests below. Gao Haobuang looked around in all directions. Just wrapped in a scroll, they had been flying northeast for 500 or 600 miles and had almost reached Shuzhou Prefecture. But this was just the time to finish a meal. I have to admit that the so-called immortal sovereign is really strong. But once I think the guy is a pervert with a serious cross-dressing fetish. Gao Haobuang, I find myself even more interested in the diary he wrote. At the thought of this, he couldn't wait to open the daily record and admire the past glory of the patriarch. The sight of the two big dark circles under his eyes really made him question life. Flipping through the entire daily record, every page was filled with various shapes of big dark circles, with no order whatsoever, let alone being able to decipher any information. Gao Haoguang felt a bit speechless. However, just then, a woman's voice came from the distant mountain forest, singing a ballad. The two headed towards the direction of the voice. Birdsong fades, blood-stained clouds veil wood and glade. Wind is hushed, a plague rides in with a living crush. The innocent's blood runs cold and red, and every lamp is dark, every hearth is dead. 97 lives undone. Rooted once in dust and sun, they swore not to drift like weed and tide, yet still they perished, side by side. The healer's son met fire and grave, shrouded in cloth, no soul to save. 97 souls now lost, in fields unblessed, by windstorm tossed. This grief runs deep, it will not sleep. This sin runs red, and will not weep. As the ballad ended, Gao Haoguang and the other two saw the owner of the singing, a girl in tattered clothes. But why would a woman appear alone in these mountains and forests? Just as senior and junior brothers were puzzled. Suddenly, several black shadows appeared behind the girl. They were shakily approaching her. They turned out to be several Jiangshi with withered faces. They reached out to grab the girl in front of them, but she remained motionless, sitting quietly without saying a word. Seeing this, Gao Haoguang and the other two immediately emerged from the bushes. They quickly kicked these few people out in no time. The Jiangshi dishes were somewhat unexpected by the two, with a soft and elastic texture, but they were just a few of the lowest grade normal corpses. The girl turned around and took a look at the two who suddenly emerged. She remained silent, with a calm expression on her face. The kicked Jiangshi climbed back up and charged towards the group. Although there were quite a few of them, if it's just at this level, it wouldn't pose a threat to the group. Just then, Fatty Huang's eyes sharpened as he took out a few talismans from his sleeve. He makes hand mudras with both hands. The next moment, the talisman in his hand turned into 7 gleaming golden copper coins. He shot them at the approaching Jiangshi. But these few goods, although not strong in combat power, have incredibly agile bodies, and actually managed to dodge the flying copper coins. But it's not over yet, one strike misses. Fatty controls the 7 copper coins to merge into one. In the end, a huge Tuwa copper coin appeared behind the Jiangshi. With a shout from Fatty Huang, the coin rapidly flew back to the top of Fatty's head, bringing back with it several Jiangshi heads. He was frustrated to be tricked into carrying them again. But things seemed far from being as simple as they imagined. At this moment, at the top of the head of the normal corpse that was blasted away, suddenly a pair of red vertical pupils opened and a hoarse voice came out from them. "Have I offended you, two Dharma seekers?" Fatty Huang was shocked by this scene. Does this Jiangshi actually possess spiritual intelligence? Could it be an arcane corpse? On the side, Gao Haoguang noticed the clues. This is not an arcane corpse, at least not the one in front of us. These 4 normal corpses are likely just manipulated servants, and the true master should be elsewhere. Currently, they are just conveying messages through borrowed bodies. The next moment, the blood-red vertical pupils turn their gaze towards the girl beside them. "Little girl, tie up these 2 alive for us. Otherwise, we will use the lives of all 322 people in your village as compensation." After saying that, the vertical pupils slowly closed and disappeared without a trace. This is a Jiangshi that has survived for thousands of years. He feeds on the vitality of living humans. But it is revered by the nearby villages as the High Corpse Lord. They even offer living sacrifices as offerings. However, this time, just as it was about to enjoy the sacrifice, it was unexpectedly stopped by the sudden intrusion of Gao Haoguang. It made it very angry that Jiangshi ate people, which it thought was natural. Not to mention that sometimes people also eat people, which is really disrespecting the dead. At this point, Three Eyes Jiangshi's gaze narrowed. He felt a familiar aura on Gao Haoguang's body, which reminded him of someone. a killing star that had terrified him for over 1,000 years. Jiang Mingzi's memories surged uncontrollably. The time went back to 525 AD, just after he had ditched his young disciple. Jiang Mingzi had a look of dark satisfaction on his face. The scroll in the box should also have brought them near the immortal sovereign's marked location, although this immortal sovereign is not sure where they will be sent. However, if he cannot survive this ordeal and loses his life, it will only prove that the moon sigil chose the wrong person. In that case, he can only wait for the next one. After all, this kid is still too inexperienced. He needs to become stronger quickly. I'm afraid that even if he waits until he becomes an immortal sovereign, he may not be able to fulfill the great mission of killing the karma-bound corpse immortal once his lifespan is exhausted. However, at this moment, there came a series of shouts from a distance, as if they were coming from 10 miles away. Feeling bored, the eternal myriad law's immortal sovereign was preparing to go check out the commotion. They say that the personalities of experts are often eccentric. Jiang Mingzi is no exception. Once something good happens, even if a dung cart passes by his doorstep, he would want to taste it with a spoon. On the other side, a few villagers who were gathering herbs in the mountains encountered Nirvana corpse rotting for his life. The leading Jiangshi had a blood-red vertical pupils on his forehead. It was Brother Three Eyes from 1,000 years ago. A tree branch swooped down from the sky, straight through the chest of a villager. Another person looked on as their friend died tragically. The villager Baida knew he was in dire straits, so he was prepared to risk his life seeking revenge for his friend. However, he saw that the arcane corpse behind him was motionless, staring into the distance with a blank expression, as if sensing something. At that moment, a divine aura suddenly appeared in the air. The person was Jiang Mingzi. I originally thought they were just ordinary bandits. I didn't expect that it was actually Nirvana corpse causing trouble. Now Immortal Sovereign is even more excited. He really likes dealing with Nirvana corpse. It's so professional and appropriate. A powerful and terrifying pressure hit us like a thunderclap. Several hundred kilometers away in a cave, Brother Three Eyes revealed a look of horror on his main body. The overwhelming pressure emanating from the newcomer made his already cooled little heart start beating frantically. Oh no, this is the feeling of excitement. In the current world, perhaps only the legendary Eternal Myriad Law's Immortal Sovereign can bear such a high cultivation level. Three Eyes really wants to directly cut off the connection with the puppet, but the opportunity to witness the strongest Dharma seeker in history is once in 1,000 years. Left and right are just puppets. Three Eyes decides to take another look. Seeing the Nirvana corpse, Jiang Mingzi showed a fearless attitude and realized that the body in front of him was not the original one. Does he want to witness the Taoist spell of the Immortal Sovereign? In that case, as you wish. After that, I saw him throw out a piece of jade seal, which is the divine power of the Three True Dharmas sect, the seal of Three True Sky Chase. The jade seal disappeared into thin air shortly after it flew out, and when it reappeared, it was already at the chest of Three Eyes. This technique does not cause any substantial harm. Its only function is for tracking. Those who use this technique have karmic consequences planted by Jiang Mingzi. Regardless of their location, they will be locked onto. Three Eyes, who is hundreds of miles away from his main body, looks at the mark appearing on his chest with horror in his heart. He knows that things have gotten out of hand this time. According to legend, any Nirvana corpse that falls into Jiang Mingzi's hands will all be tortured to the point of regret and transformed into an immortal body. Just the thought of the consequences of falling into Jiang Mingzi's hands made Three Eyes furrow his brows, and he made a decision. He took out a knife and cut himself into pieces, leaving only a thread of vitality. He intended to use this to slumber until the era where Jiang Mingzi resided had passed, and then awaken again. With the self-destruction of Three Eyes, Jiang Mingzi also became aware of something. After casually dealing with a few controlled puppets, he fell into contemplation. Does he plan to slowly wait for Immortal Sovereign to die over time? Jiang Mingzi instantly understood the thoughts of Three Eyes when he broke through in a moment. However, even if he temporarily interrupted the pursuit of the Seal of Sky Chase, his own injuries may never be healed. It just so happened that the scroll he left for Gao Haoguang is specifically designed to track the seal of Sky Chase. Then let this arcane corpse become Grey Boy's touchstone. Do you know how miserable this little girl is? Her family has been sacrificed to Jiangshi for generations just because her ancestors were sinners in the village. This girl's name is Bai Xiao. She is from the nearby Black Mountain village. Although she is still young, she cannot escape the fate of being treated as a sacrifice. Just as she was about to perish in the mouth of the Jiangshi, she was unexpectedly saved by the arrival of Gao Haoguang and another person. But the girl was not only ungrateful, she even intended to tie the two of them together and offer them to the Jiangshi. Because if she didn't do this, as compensation, the lives of all 322 people in their village will be at stake. So she used biting her tongue to threaten as a way out. She took both Gao Haoguang and another person to Black Mountain village. On the way, Gao Haoguang asked the eerie nursery rhyme that Bai Xiao sang before. But she said it was a children's rhyme, and it has been circulating in Black Mountain village for thousands of years. Legend has it that in a very distant past, it was a more chaotic world than today. But the villagers in Black Mountain village, deep in the mountains, enjoy a tranquility that the outside world dares not dream of. It is also for this reason that the medicine man, the only one in the village who can provide medical care, is deeply loved by over 200 villagers. They see him as a hero. But one day, a strange disease that should not exist in this world appeared in the village. Those afflicted with this disease would have physical deformities. Some lost their eyes. Although not fatal, they couldn't leave the village. From initially 1 patient to 2, and then over 90, half of the village's population was affected by the disease. In the midst of despair, the medicine man, who had gone to gather herbs in the deep mountains, returned. He claimed to have found a miraculous medicine to cure the disease. Everyone believed in him, but he deceived everyone. So the medicine man, referred to the elixir, was actually his blood. And his blood. All the people who took the medication turned into a puddle of blood, totaling 97 individuals. Nearly half of them died in extreme fear and pain. Later, it was rumored in the village that the epidemic was actually caused by the medicine man in order to test medicine on living people. After that, the medicine man disappeared without a trace from Black Mountain village. But it left behind many terrifying stories that were passed down by word of mouth. And this, the medicine man, is Bai Xiao's ancestor named Bai De. Also, it is because their ancestors owed a debt to the people in the village that they are considered a guilty family. So since last year when Nirvana Corpse appeared to demand live sacrifices, their family has taken on the responsibility of offering sacrifices. Over the past year, first Bai Xiao's father, and then her mother were both offered as sacrifices to the Jiangshi. And now, finally, it was Bai Xiao's turn. But Bai Xiao does not blame the villagers who brought her here. She only resents her ancestor from 1,000 years ago, Bai De. But is this legend that has been passed down for 1,000 years in Black Mountain village really the truth? Returning to over 1,000 years ago, after a strange disease appeared in Black Mountain village, the medicine man Bai De and his friends ventured into the mountains to search for herbs to cure the strange illness. They unexpectedly encountered the Nirvana corpse on their way, just as he was about to perish in the mouth of the Jiangshi. They were counted by the passing Jiang Mingzi. After Bai De witnessed the divine powers of the immortal, Bai De seemed to have caught a life-saving straw. He promised to serve Jiang Mingzi for a lifetime, hoping that he could save them in Black Mountain village. After listening to Bai Da's description, Jiang Mingzi said that it was not a disease at all, just a common phenomenon known as the death rot. Nirvana corpse feeds on the living, and those who possess divine powers can use their own black blood to consume the lives of others. They often drip corpse blood into the water sources commonly used by mortals. If a healthy mortal drinks it, there won't be much impact. But if not, slowly, the drinker's body will gradually disappear, piece by piece. the living beings consumed will turn into spiritual power, merging into the body of the nearby dark blood master to help them cultivate and become stronger. After listening to Jiang Mingzi's explanation, Baida instantly understood many things. Before this epidemic appeared, someone in the village had seen a strange corpse with a giant eye growing on its forehead, appearing near the village, similar to the Jiangshi that had previously chased and killed Baida and others. However, at the moment, it has been easily taken care of by Jiang Mingzi. The matter here is over. The bored immortal sovereign is preparing to leave. Baida, feeling anxious, once again spoke up to ask Jiang Mingzi to help Black Mountain Village restore the villagers who were infected with the disease to their former selves. Ordinary people go through birth, old age, illness, and death due to their own karma. Jiang Mingzi doesn't want to intervene. But Baida is a master at giving flattery. Indeed, flattery will get you everywhere. Under the flattery output of Baida, the departing Jiang Mingzi paused, turned back, and said a sentence. This is a Jiangshi that has survived for 1,000 years in order to cultivate divine powers. It drips its own blood into the water source of the nearby village. As long as people drink the water from this source, their bodies slowly begin to disappear, part by part, until they vanish without a trace, and these preyed upon beings, they all merge into the body of Nirvana corpse to assist in its cultivation. As the only one in the village who can diagnose and prescribe medicine, the medicine man Baida decides to go into the mountains with his friends to search for herbs that can treat this epidemic. Unexpectedly, they came across the tragic death of their friend Nirvana corpse on the way, but Baida was lucky to be saved by the passing immortal sovereign. After learning the symptoms of the epidemic spreading in Black Mountain Village from Baida, Jiang Mingzi realized that it was not a disease at all, but rather the death rot. He then bestowed a celestial dan to Baida. This is a rare life-extending dan pill. As long as it is ground into powder and mixed with water, by having each person infected with the death rot consume a little bit, the lost body parts can grow back. Baida carefully put away the dan pill, and then went on to bombard Jiang Mingzi with a flurry of rainbow farts. Even though it was obvious flattery, it was clear that Immortal Sovereign was enjoying it. Afterwards, Baida bowed deeply to Jiang Mingzi and prepared to take his leave. Before returning, he had to bury his friend's body first. In order to prevent the body from being dug up and eaten by wild animals, he even used herbs that could be sold to mask the smell. Jiang Mingzi glanced sideways and thought to himself, "This medicine man is really a kind person." Just in this war-torn world, killing is no different from cutting grass. Morality has long been lost. Can such a person really survive? However, just at this moment, the energy of the moon sigil of the three truths is restored, and the temporal barrier is once again penetrated. He saw his disciple, Gao Haoguang, being taken to Black Mountain Village by a scroll. He also witnessed the outcome of Baida. Jiang Mingzi, known to the world as Immortal Sovereign. At this moment, a look of lament and helplessness appeared in his eyes. He silently watched for a long time, waiting until Baida finished burying his friend. When Baida was about to bow to himself again and prepare to leave, the medicine man Jiang Mingzi suddenly stopped him. Then, under Baida's puzzled gaze, he took out a jar of his own century-old fine wine collection. He scooped out a bowl for the medicine man. Although there was still a hint of indifference in his eyes, it seemed like there was something more. Immortal Sovereign raised his cup to the mortal in front of him. Baida, acquaintance is a form of fate. Let this century-old fine wine be a farewell gift to you. Time flies. The time has come to Black Mountain Village over 1,000 years later. Bai Xiaoxiao has returned safely. The children in the village are all very happy. Because of the ancestor Baida's relationship, the Bai Xiaoxiao family is not well received in the village. They are only close to the younger generation, who are inexperienced in the ways of the world. Just as a few people had recently entered the village, they were seen by a passing auntie. Bai Xiaoxiao was about to explain, but her scream interrupted her. The auntie let out a loud roar, and in a moment, news of Bai Xiaoxiao coming back to life spread throughout the whole village. The villagers of Black Mountain Village began to gather towards this place, and surrounded a few people. A middle-aged man walked out of the crowd, and angrily looked ahead. This person is the village chief of Black Mountain Village. Bai Xiaoxiao wanted to say something, but she felt embarrassed, and lowered her head before the words could come out. The village chief, seeing this, immediately slapped her and called Bai Xiaoxiao a cowardly and greedy girl. None of the offerings sent to the back mountain have ever returned alive. In the end, he even started to exchange blows with her. The villagers watching also acted the same way. They did not conceal their ugly faces. They began to curse Bai Xiaoxiao shamelessly, accusing her of being a shameless person just like her ancestors, wanting to harm the whole village like a beast. Gao Haoguang, who was standing aside, couldn't bear it anymore. Only cowards would bully the weak, and cowards are not qualified to be called the weak. The village chief was still pondering the meaning of Gao Haoguang's words, when he was knocked back by a punch. Watching this outsider dare to show disrespect to the village chief, the villagers were immediately incensed. Several of the leaders even acted directly, wanting to teach this little troublemaker a lesson. But after all, Gao Haoguang is also a dharma seeker. On weekdays, he is faced with Jiangshi, so dealing with ordinary people is naturally a piece of cake for him. Seeing that this kid is so difficult to deal with, the village chief ordered someone to take Bai Xiaoxiao hostage, and used her life as a threat. Let Gao Haoguang and others surrender. At night, after learning about everything that happened in the back mountain, the villagers unanimously decided to sacrifice the three of them to the High Corpse Lord. In this chaotic era, human lives are as insignificant as grass. There are occasional marauding bandits passing through the village causing harm. At the tumultuous moment in Black Mountain Village, a nirvana corpse has appeared nearby, and it belongs to a very principled and faithful person. As long as the surrounding villages regularly offer sacrifices, it will bless the peace and safety of the nearby villages. However, the sacrifices are currently being disrupted by Gao Haoguang and others. So they decided to offer several people together in hopes of appeasing the High Corpse Lord's anger. This is a Jiangshi that has survived for 1,000 years. Although it feasts on the living, it is also a creature of good credit. In this chaotic era, lives are as insignificant as grass and firewood. The law of the jungle between people is far more common than the appearance of Jiangshi feeding on humans. You never know when a group of horse bandits may suddenly rush in and massacre the entire village. In order for the village to survive peacefully in this chaotic world, the people of Black Mountain Village have decided to regularly offer living human sacrifices to the Jiangshi, honoring it as the High Corpse Lord, in the hope that it can protect their peace. The Jiangshi has accepted the people's request. At this point, Black Mountain Village can be considered to have gained a moment of peace. They survived in this chaotic world like captive livestock, barely clinging on. The way these people are surviving in this chaotic world may disgust Gao Haoguang, but he cannot find a valid argument against it. Suddenly, in the sky behind Haoguang, the moon sigil of the three truths of the three true dharmas sect gradually appears again, opening the time barrier, allowing passage. Jiang Mingzi quietly looks at everything in front of her. Gao Haoguang spoke again. Even livestock without fences know how to run away. Haven't you ever thought about leaving here? This sentence thoroughly angered the village chief. They have lived here for thousands of years, generation after generation making a living by farming. In this chaotic world, leaving here would mean they have no means to make a living. Where else could they survive without the ability to support themselves? Not to mention that the High Corpse Lord possesses immense supernatural powers, and there are 3 villages that worship him. In the past year, there hasn't been any news of anyone being able to escape from here alive. Having said that, he then turned his gaze towards Bai Xiaoxiao. In comparison, the ancestors of her family have killed villagers from Black Mountain Village many times more than the High Corpse Lord. 1,000 years ago, it was precisely her ancestor, the medicine man Bai De, who used strange medicine to take the lives of 97 people from Black Mountain Village. Every household here carries the debt of Bai Da's lives. Since it's a debt, what's wrong with Bai Xiao and her family repaying lives with lives? Upon hearing the village chief's narration in Black Mountain Village, Jiang Mingzi, who understood everything through the moon sigil of the three truths, glanced sideways slightly. He took a deep look at Bai Da, who was beside him examining the body of their friend from the same village. On the other side, Gao Haoguang felt angry because of the foolishness of the people in this village. At present, Bai Xiao has no other family members. If she dies, will you still use your own family members as sacrifices afterwards? This question immediately left the village chief and others speechless. They naturally understood that when the time came, they would capture some passing outsiders as sacrifices. Gao Haoguang was angry. Finally, these people have shown their ugly faces. The concept of an eye for an eye is just an excuse for their own weakness and wickedness. Their inner darkness was exposed, and the village chief and a few others left in a rage. At this moment, they wished that the High Corpse Lord would appear sooner and devour this sharp-tongued gray-haired boy. Watching the situation become inevitable, Bai Xiao quietly shed tears. She was not afraid of death, but rather felt guilty. It was because of herself that she involved Gao Haoguang and several others, but they still chose to help her. This made her feel very guilty, but even in the face of such a dangerous situation, Gao Haoguang remained calm. He asked Bai Xiao if she wanted to go outside the mountain to take a look. Bai Xiao revealed her memories. Her father, who occasionally went up the mountain to gather herbs, had once mentioned that at the end of the mountain, there was an endless sea and an endless city, with many things she dared not even imagine. The people there probably wouldn't know that her family bears a guilty conscience. As the words fell silent, suddenly a sigh came from above the heads of the three people, and the one producing the sound turned out to be a Jiangshi with crimson-huge pupils. This is probably the most principled Jiangshi I have ever seen. Its creed is to repay debts and return favors. Everyone was shocked at the sudden appearance of the Jiangshi. Even Jiang Mingzi looked surprised. He used the moon sigil of the three truths to cross the river of time and see 3 eyes more than 1,000 years later. Is this guy really the one who severed his own original self just now? But how did this happen? This arcane corpse, in order to escape his pursuit, only left himself a trace of vitality. With cultivation, even after more than 1,000 years, it is absolutely impossible to recover like this. Could it have had an accomplice to help heal its injuries? Immortal Sovereign said he was puzzled. The village chief of Black Mountain Village stepped forward nervously and respectfully bowed, saying, "The High Corpse Lord, these 2 individuals and the sacrifices are all entrusted to you." But 3 Eyes scratched his head in frustration. The will of heaven not only affects people, but also spares not even the Nirvana corpse. After saying that, 3 Eyes began to introduce himself. He had long forgotten his name during his lifetime. As for the title, High Corpse, it was made up by the villagers who worshipped him. He didn't like it. He preferred others to call him 3 Eyes. It seems more friendly this way, and his motto is to always pay his debts. After saying that, he pulled out the dagger from his waist, ready to take action against Gao Haoguang who had offended him. At this critical moment, Bai Xiao shouted with all her might, "Stop!" The knife wielded by 3 Eyes against the 2 was unexpectedly stopped in its tracks. Even senior and junior brothers were stunned by this scene. They couldn't understand what this arcane corpse intended to do. However, 3 Eyes ignored them, sheathed his knife, and looked at Bai Xiao in front of him, saying, "Hold back. Shall we be friendly?" Then he continued to introduce himself, saying that he had been neither alive nor dead in this world for over 1,600 years. Despite being petty, he was gentle in nature and never killed for amusement. His only pastime or hobby was watching a small sapling grow taller and thicker day by day. Even senior and junior brothers were stunned by this scene. They couldn't understand what this arcane corpse intended to do. However, 3 Eyes ignored them, sheathed his knife, and looked at Bai Xiao in front of him, saying, "Hold back. Shall we be friendly?" Then he continued to introduce himself, saying that he had been neither alive nor dead in this world for over 1,600 years. Despite being petty, he was gentle in nature and never killed for amusement. His only pastime or hobby was watching a small sapling grow taller and thicker day by day, comparing to see who could live longer. After becoming an arcane corpse, he also awakened his divine powers. Saying this, Three Eyes raised his hand and pointed to the vermilion vertical pupils on his forehead. This technique is called the borrowed eye of essence. Living or dead individuals struck by this Taoist spell cast by the eye will become his puppets. The spellcaster can freely control the puppet's limbs, but unfortunately, they can only control the limbs. So, it is more effective when used on dead individuals. Spellcaster can also transfer this target to a puppet. Of course, as long as the consciousness of the spellcaster is established, even if the body is torn apart, the divine powers will still be controlled by the spellcaster. Onlookers were a little bewildered by Three Eyes' soliloquy. More than speaking as a villain, it seemed like he was explaining something to someone. After speaking about some of his past, Three Eyes suddenly focused his gaze. He shifted his gaze to Bai Xiaoxiao in front of him. "You are called Bai Xiaoxiao, right? You have an ancestor named Bai De. What do you think of us?" Bai Xiaoxiao gritted her silver teeth. It was the monster in front of her that took the lives of her parents. She hates it. She wants to avenge her parents. Three Eyes lowered his gaze slightly, his tone still indifferent. Nirvana Corpse harvests lives to cultivate divine powers and extend life. We think it's only natural, and you seeking revenge for your parents' death at our hands is also only natural. However, there are some things that we still need to clarify and explain clearly, because they are not natural or justifiable. Continuing, Three Eyes then began to tell everyone a story that happened a long time ago. The story took place in a village deep in the mountains called Black Mountain. Here, there was a medicine man named Bai De. Bai De was originally a simpleton, who could barely recognize a few words. However, seeing that there were sick people in the village without medical care, his kind-hearted nature led him to spend half of his life learning to read and studying medicine. He treated many people, and earned the respect of many in return. Bai De has a parent, a wife, and a sister who married to a neighboring village. Their family all lives outside of Black Mountain Village. That year, some anomalies occurred in Black Mountain Village, which Bai De thought was a kind of epidemic. Every household in the village experienced cases where a part of the body gradually disappeared. Until now, Black Mountain Village still does not understand what happened. That epidemic. It was actually caused by the divine powers of Three Eyes. Because nirvana corpses cultivate by absorbing the life force of living beings to become stronger. This is the great Tao of nirvana corpses. Later, Bai De discovered that there were herbs with strong effects that could alleviate this epidemic. He traveled all around the nearby mountains to collect them all, but it was still far from enough. There were too many villagers suffering from the epidemic. He went to search in even more remote mountains. This journey took half a year, but even he himself didn't expect that he would truly find the miraculous cure for this epidemic. He returned to Black Mountain Village with great excitement. He thought that after half a year of hardship, he finally managed to bring peace to everyone. But when he returned home, what he saw was a scene that seemed like hell. His mother, wife, and son were all hung dead in front of the house. Do you know what is meant by extreme evil in the human world? This is a secluded village located deep in the mountains, where almost every household has someone infected with a strange disease. The infected individuals gradually disappear from a certain part of their bodies. At this moment, the villagers of Black Mountain Village are still unaware that this is actually caused by drinking water contaminated with Jiangshi blood. And living outside of Black Mountain Village is the Bai De family. Because they drink from a different water source than the other villagers, their family has become the only household that did not get infected with the disease. Within 6 months, Bai De went deep into the mountains to search for life-saving herbs for the villagers infected with the disease. There started to be some rumors in the village, with people beginning to suspect why the epidemic did not affect Bai De's family. They questioned why they had healthy bodies. Some people said that Baida often researched strange medicines and even tested them on animals. They began to suspect that their own transformation was also the result of Baida's experiments. Moreover, Baida has been missing for so long, probably already dead outside the chaotic mountains. Ignorance and jealousy have stirred up the ugliness in the villagers' hearts. They turn their gaze towards the elderly and young in the Baida family. Have you heard? As long as they eat parts of the bodies of Baida's family members, our disappeared bodies will grow back. After half a year, Baida finally found the elixir in the deep mountains and returned with excitement. He thought that after all the hardships, he could finally exchange it for everyone's peace. But when he returned home, he saw his entire family hanging dead in front of the house. The bodies were also mutilated. His mother's eyeballs were gouged out, his wife's internal organs were cut out, and his son's limbs were chopped off. The pain, the heartbreaking pain. Baida's pupils instantly turned blood red. He couldn't believe what he was seeing in front of him. Tears of bitter hatred welled up. His first thought was that they were bandits or passing soldiers. But some conscientious children in the village told him that all of this was done by the villagers of Black Mountain Village. The sun and human nature are the two things in the world that are most difficult to look at directly. The medicine man, who now knows everything, can no longer suppress the overwhelming hatred in his heart. He wants revenge. But what can a mere mortal do to so many people? Even if Baida tries his best, he only managed to exchange for nearly fatal injuries on the spot. He escaped. The only thing keeping him breathing was hatred. This hatred even kept him alive for several days without suffocating. But he knew he could never seek revenge on his own. He also knew that he was slowly dying, until he seemed to hear some kind of call. He dragged his half-dead body to a cave. This is where Three Eyes chose to end it all. At this moment, Three Eyes has already fallen into a deep sleep. In order to escape Jiang Mingzi's pursuit, he used divine powers to cut himself, leaving only a wisp of vitality. This was an incurable injury. Even if thousands of years passed, it would never be possible to return to the past. What awaits Three Eyes is almost endless darkness and loneliness. But he never expected that the light brought to himself at that time would actually come from a mortal. Baida, who was breathing his last breath, took out the Dan pill given to him by Jiang Mingzi. Originally meant for the villagers of Black Mountain Village, by consuming the Dan pill now, he could survive. But instead of doing so, he gave the Dan pill to Three Eyes, the source of trouble for his entire village. It was precisely this Dan pill that gave Three Eyes hope of recovery. He asked Baida to save himself, but Baida said he wanted him to continue as before because it could be his revenge. Later, Baida mentioned everything that happened in the village. Originally, these were just common worldly evils to Three Eyes, but Baida's life-saving grace made him view it differently. Therefore, Three Eyes took up Baida's enmity. He used his innate divine powers, borrowed Eye of Essence, to control Baida's body. He wanted Lord N to personally seek revenge. So, Three Eyes controlled Baida to return to Black Mountain Village, using divine powers to accelerate the absorption of those who were genuinely guilty. Even though rapid absorption could harm the body, this time he did not cultivate, but sought retribution for debts owed. After that, Three Eyes properly buried Baida's body. As for Baida's family, only his younger sister's lineage and descendants remain. In order to continue the family line, they still let their descendants bear the surname Bai. Just didn't expect that later on, this lineage ended up moving back to Black Mountain Village. The above is the story told by Three Eyes, and it is also the backstory of the grudges in Black Mountain Village. The sun and human nature are the most unbearable things to look at in this world. But I dare to look directly at the sun. But I dare not look directly at human nature. After listening to Three Eyes, it elaborated on the prelude of the legend of Baida. The villagers, who always position themselves on the moral high ground and consider themselves as victims, were taken aback as this does not align with the facts passed down through generations in their families. The several members of the Three True Dharmas sect, who are mere bystanders, are also furious about this outcome. Even Jiang Mingzi, who holds the prestigious title of immortal sovereign, cannot avoid mundane matters. With a moment of silence, Three Eyes turned his gaze towards the last descendant of Baida in the world. By Xiao Xiao, your parents died by our hands. This is the consequence. Originally, while occasionally grabbing villagers or bandits for feasts on weekdays, they would deliberately avoid the village where the descendants of Baida still live. But fate plays tricks on people. The elders of several surrounding villages have realized that the Nirvana corpse is killing people. In order to avoid bringing disaster to their own families, they deliberately found Three Eyes, and said they could offer sacrifices regularly in exchange for their safety. For the naturally lazy Three Eyes, this is indeed a good deal that is hard to refuse. After that, they sent over those isolated individuals in the village, people who were harmful to them, and those who wanted to take their land and property. Until Baishishia's parents were also sent over, Three Eyes did not know that they were descendants of Baida. They should not have died. But they did indeed die at the hands of Three Eyes. After speaking, Three Eyes let out a sigh. Since they are descendants of Baida, they cannot be treated as ordinary people. He then turned his gaze towards Bai Xiao Xiao in front of him. Is everything she just said the evidence you wanted to see? Do you want to eliminate us and seek revenge for your parents? Do you want to seek revenge for the injustices suffered by your ancestors and your family in this generation? As long as you say you want it, we will do it. Our motto is to repay all debts. After hearing the whole story, Bai Xiao Xiao became numb. Looking back in the past, when both parents were still around, the family of three chatted at the dining table about the interesting things happening in the village. Although life was ordinary, it was filled with warmth. But suddenly one day, the village chief led a group of people to Baishishia's home. They pointed at her father and angrily reprimanded him, saying, "This is the debt your ancestors owe to all the people in our village. You being a sacrifice alone is already letting you off cheaply." The father did not resist because he felt that as long as he went, he could protect his wife and daughter. He smiled and told Bai Xiao Xiao that he was just going on a trip. But a long time passed, and he never returned. In a big house, only the increasingly silent daughter and the mother, who forces a smile every day, are left. But they did not expect that the father's departure was just the beginning of the tragedy. The village chief came again with people to their door. That day, mother smiled and said she was going to see father. She also said that after this time, the people in the village would not trouble them anymore. Before parting, mother told Bai Xiao Xiao not to blame the people in the village, because it was their family's debt of life owed. This trip would be considered as repayment of the debt. Hell is empty, and the devils are in the world. Mother's words, the ugliness of human nature, the injustice of the world, all shook Bai Shixiao's rationality. She wants to ask more than 320 people from Black Mountain Village, who owes whose life debt. Three Eyes raised his hand to form a mudra, and the vertical pupils on his forehead emitted a dazzling light. The next moment, the crimson borrowed eye of essence appeared in his hand. Gao Haoguang quickly shouted at this, and wanted Bai Xiao Xiao to calm down. By what basis? Bai Xiao Xiao blurted out in an indifferent tone. He showed no sign of hesitation at all. Three Eyes bestows the borrowed eye of essence in his hand to Bai Xiao Xiao, just like the way he did to his benefactor from the past, Bai De. This time, he also wants Bai Xiao Xiao to personally avenge this deep enmity. I do feel a bit heavy-hearted when reading this comic up to this point. This is probably the most principled Jiangshi I have ever seen. Just because the descendant of his benefactor wanted him dead, he chose to take his own life by his own sword. Fate plays with people. 1,000-year debt is repaid. It was only after Bai Xiao Xiao said that one sentence about wanting revenge. Three Eyes acted without hesitation. He bestowed his borrowed eye of essence upon Bai Xiao Xiao. These are the innate divine powers of Three Eyes, which also carry his memories. Every word of hatred from ancestor Bai De at this moment. Bai Xiao Xiao seems to be able to hear it with her own ears, truly and clearly. The blood debt of 1,000 years is what they owe us. But why is it us who are repaying the debt? A tear of blood slid from Bai Shishiu's eyes. Three Eyes lowered its gaze, and once again spoke in its hoarse voice. You have accepted our divine powers and memories. You should also know that as long as our consciousness is based on it, the master of these divine powers can only be us. Do you know what to do? Come, avenge your parents by Xiao Xiao. After a brief silence, finally uttered the words. You should end your own life. Another time? Watching Bai Shishiao's figure, Three Eyes' expression revealed a hint of complexity. It's truly a cycle of cause and effect. Retribution is inevitable. The last self-inflicted act was for survival, and now it is to repay the debt of life owed to the Bai family. But this time, it seems he has no reason to hold back. But he does not regret, as this is his principle. Debts must be repaid. With a flash of the knife, Three Eyes' body was instantly torn apart. He left no room for himself. Evil spirits still hold grudges, while humans are left only with ambitions and greed. Now we don't owe your Bai family anything. This was the last sentence Three Eyes said before he died. At the moment of death, his gaze stared into the distant mountains and forests, where there was a giant tree that grew taller than the surrounding trees. This was planted by Three Eyes more than 1,000 years ago, when he had just gained mobility. Afterward, it wakes up every few hundred years and stares at the trees. This is the only joy in Three Eyes' daily life. He watches the young saplings grow day by day, competing to see who can live longer. Unfortunately, he ultimately lost. As Three Eyes' consciousness disappeared completely, Bai Xiaoxiao acquired the borrowed Eye of Essence. At this moment, she aimed to seek justice for all the injustices suffered by the Bai family through the generations. Gao Haoguang and the two of them wanted to step forward to persuade, but it was already too late. Countless scarlet Daoist spells scattered from between her eyebrows. In an instant, the entire sky was dyed blood red. Without any hesitation, Bai Xiaoxiao controlled the borrowed Eye of Essence and attacked the villagers. When the Daoist spell Hongguang touched those villagers, it immediately penetrated into their bodies. The next moment, the villagers were horrified to find that although they were conscious, they had lost control of their bodies. They watched helplessly as they wielded their knives towards their beloved family members with whom they shared deep bonds. They attacked their lover who had endured hardships with them. They attacked their friends who were like siblings. For a moment, endless despair filled the entire Black Mountain village. The sounds of fighting and crying were incessant. This human tragedy made Gao Haoguang and the other two feel a bit unbearable. These villagers are not worth mourning for. He doesn't want to save them. But after all, these are human lives. Although they knew that any choice they made would be wrong, the two of them still acted and subdued the out-of-control villagers. Bai Xiaoxiao questioned the two of them with a cold tone. Why do you help them? Shouldn't their ancestors and their current actions lead to death? Shouldn't they? Bai Xiaoxiao repeated it again, as if asking her own heart. Gao Haoguang's expression was complicated. Shouldn't they? He also had no answer in his heart. At this moment, second senior brother beside handed over a few talismans. At present, Bai Xiaoxiao only has a preliminary grasp of divine powers, and does not have the powerful body of an arcane corpse. Together, the two of them may have a chance at trying to subdue it. In the midst of speaking, the village chief of Black Mountain Village stepped forward and respectfully bowed. At this moment, they were truly afraid and quietly begged for the protection of Gao Haoguang and the other two. The people behind hastily spoke up in agreement, but their words did not mention at all the mistakes they had made. They said that Bai Xiaoxiao is a monster. Gao Haoguang was really disgusted. He punched the village chief next to him and sent him flying. He remained silent for a long time and then, with difficulty, said to Bai Xiaoxiao, From a human perspective, most of them should not die. Can you calm down and talk about it? Bai Xiaoxiao's response was that everyone in Black Mountain Village is going to die. Her voice was still gentle but resolute. Just like that, wanting to erase all endless revenge? It's simply the biggest joke under heaven. Gao Haoguang was speechless. If it were him, he would definitely think about killing everyone here. He was thinking whether he deserves to stand here. Is it really worth it for him to fight by Xiao Xiao for these bastards? What should he do? What exactly is the deep-seated enmity and hatred? She made a young girl cruelly slaughter more than 300 people in the village. At this moment, Bai Xiaoxiao once again unleashes the borrowed eye of essence, with a surge of crimson blood radiance sweeping across. On the side, Gao Haoguang holds a talisman with one hand, but his mind is filled with countless thoughts. He doesn't want to stop Bai Xiaoxiao. He wants her to complete her revenge and kill all these bastards. Can you really stand in a human's position and watch so many people being killed before your eyes? It seems that in this world, many things cannot be measured by right or wrong, good or evil. Everything is just a matter of different perspectives. Gao Haoguang suddenly felt, I don't have the qualifications to judge all of this. But if this continues, Bai Xiaoxiao will be doomed forever. Why did all of this happen? If none of this had ever occurred? If those things from 1,000 years ago had never existed? Gao Haoguang suddenly thought of someone, Patriarch Jiang Mingzi from the Three True Dharmas sect. If he is present, can he change this cause and effect pattern? In the sky, through the moon sigil of the Three Truths, Jiang Mingzi's gaze revealed a hint of solemnity as he looked at everything. Just a moment ago, he sensed a hint of causality from his disciple, who was born 1,000 years after him. In fact, it was way back when Gao Haoguang used the talisman he gave him in the third Dharma Palace. Jiang Mingzi then sensed a faint smell that not even time could isolate. It's one of the divine powers related to cause and effect. But Jiang Mingzi is puzzled by one thing. Why can Gao Haoguang's divine powers adjust the power of other people's talismans? There are only two possibilities for him to be able to fully activate the talisman personally refined by Jiang Mingzi. One is that he personally activates the talisman. The other kind, almost impossible to exist unless it is Gao Haoguang, who has a once-in-a-century talent in talisman arts, has dedicated numerous years to refining this skill, and also possesses a certain level of understanding of Jiang Mingzi's divine powers. Perhaps Gao Haoguang really has this talent, but others do not. Jiang Mingzi let out a sigh. He was not sure what the faint green phantom above Gao Haoguang's head, which only he could perceive, represented. The phantom altered the talisman in the hands of his young disciple. Some excess obstacles to the flow of magic are gradually disappearing, as if something is modifying the talisman. And within just a few breaths, the modification has already been completed. Fatty Huang glanced at Gao Haoguang, who had not yet made a move, and indeed, he was starting to feel a bit overwhelmed. He saw little junior brother still standing motionless with a blank face, looking at Bai Xiaoxiao. Several red rays broke through the defense and arrived in an instant. Fatty agilely dodged the attack with a quick movement. When he looked back, he found that Gao Haoguang seemed not to have reacted, allowing the blood-red rays to hit him. Fatty Huang was stunned for a moment. Just as he was distracted, another blood-red light hit him. Both of their bodies instantly lost control. Is he intentionally not dodging? Whether it's intentional or unintentional, or maybe both, perhaps only Gao Haoguang himself knows. Jiang Mingzi glanced meaningfully. The inner conflict made Gao Haoguang evade this choice, that was wrong in any case. Perhaps he wanted to just remain as a bystander. Watch how everything unfolds. Even if he faces their respective fates with indifference. Helplessly being manipulated. The surging blood aura envelopes the entire village, and the massacre is nearing its end. Bai Xiaoxiao lifted the Daoist spell from Gao Haoguang and the two. Everything is over. She looked up at the starry sky and murmured to herself. It was as if he was talking to his parents and ancestors Bai De about everything he had done. But suddenly, a tender cry sounded, as if a bucket of cold water was poured over Bai Xiaoxiao's heart. Her mind went blank at this moment. Although the great vengeance was avenged, her heart seemed to ache even more. When she was performing divine powers, Bai Xiaoxiao deliberately avoided the children in the village. Cycle of cause and effect. The world is in cycles. The parents of these children killed Bai Xishi's loved ones. And now she has become the murderer of the loved ones of these children as well. The children cried out in despair. They want Bai Xiaoxiao to pay with her life. But Bai Xiaoxiao just turned back numbly. She looked at her friends, who had been following her and calling her sister every day. Now only children used to like her. Now only children hated her. The children's childish yet hysterical voices echoed in her ears. They wanted to kill this monster, who had slaughtered the whole village, seeking revenge for the dead loved ones. Bai Xiaoxiao did not make any move. She watched as the children with knives rushed towards her. She turned back and smiled at Gao Haoguang, who wanted to stop them, as if saying, "Consider this as paying off a debt." Different positions lead to different opinions. Maybe ending things here is also a form of relief. How should we define right and wrong, good and evil? A girl avenged her parents by slaughtering more than 300 people in the village. She annihilated the close relatives of these children. They cried hysterically, their young faces now filled with hatred. They picked up their weapons and stabbed towards the girl. The girl did not evade, allowing the children to pierce her body. This world is too murky, with human nature being indifferent and numb. Many people who should die do not, and many who should not die end up dying. Looking at the fallen girl Gao Haoguang, her eyes were full of sadness and indignation. He could see that Bai Xiaoxiao no longer had the will to live. Does she really think that death is the best destination? Gao Haoguang was unwilling. He wanted to take Bai Xiaoxiao to see the outside world, the places she had longed for but couldn't imagine. He adjusted his emotions and said to the child beside him, "She has already passed away. We will take her to another place for burial. She does not belong to Black Mountain Village." Before leaving, Wang Tugua left some money for the children. Is it wrong for these children? He doesn't know, or others are not qualified to judge. In the sky, the moon sigil of the three truths. Jiang Mingzi's eyes revealed a deep meaning. He has vaguely guessed what this young apprentice wants to do. As Gao Haoguang flicked the talisman in his hand, several mysterious energies began to gather in the air. Finally, above the heads of the few people, a giant gold and copper coin appeared. This series of actions made Wang Tugua's scalp numb as he watched. Little junior brother only used 4 talismans, yet the power was much stronger than his combination of 7 talismans. The two placed the critically wounded Bai Xiaoxiao onto a copper coin. The grudges here have been settled. In the eyes of the children, Bai Xiaoxiao is already dead. The copper coins turned into a divine light and flew towards the mountains. At this moment, even though Bai Xiaoxiao was seriously injured, she was being held onto the last thread of vitality by the divine powers of 3 eyes. In this way, he will find a way to make her survive. The energy of the moon sigil of the 3 truths in the air has been depleted. It has once again transformed into an ancient and simple tortoiseshell. Jiang Mingzi let out a sigh. He understood that Haoguang wanted to save the little girl who had lost all will to live. Perhaps intervening now could stop this absurd situation from escalating. But his idea itself is truly absurd. Time travels back to the year 1906 AD. Gao Haoguang and several others hurriedly moved towards the mountains outside the city. During this time, Bai Xiaoxiao also woke up from her coma. But her body, including her heart and several internal organs, are injured. Even with 3 eyes' divine powers, she won't live much longer. He must make Bai Xiaoxiao's will to die disappear, otherwise, even if he finds a way, it will still be in vain. On the way, in order to prevent Bai Xiaoxiao from falling into a coma again, Gao Haoguang and several others told her many things beyond the mountains. Many, many things that even her father didn't know. The world beyond the mountains is even more vast than she imagined. With her back to the setting moon and her face toward the rising sun, if Bai Xiaoxiao is willing, she may be able to leave behind the darkness behind her, and embrace the brightness ahead. Whether it's light or dark, life or death, it all depends on Bai Xishi's thoughts. In the warm morning sunlight, a few people dashed out of the mountains. A strange buzzing sound that Bai Xiaoxiao had never heard before caught her attention. The source of the sound was a metallic box several meters long, emitting black smoke. Gao Haoguang told her that the metallic box is called a train, which can carry several hundred people at once. Later, the two of them took Bai Xiaoxiao to see the sea. She also learned that in this world, there is a gigantic metallic ship the size of a small mountain. Riding on it can take you to the other side of the sea, where there are people of various colors. She doesn't know which is more amazing compared to the classic of mountains and seas. Finally, Gao Haoguang brought Bai Xiaoxiao to a huge city. He softly spoke to the girl next to him, saying that the world beyond the mountains is no longer the same as before. As long as they survive, there will be significant changes every year. No one can imagine what it will turn into in the future. Bai Xiaoxiao, don't you want to take a look? As long as you say you want to, you can survive. Bai Xiaoxiao did not answer. The borrowed eye of essence between her eyebrows slightly opened as she silently watched everything here: the bustling streets, the crowded crowds, and the myriad of life outside the mountains. Gao Haoguang did not disturb her. He silently walked up to a giant rock as if making some kind of decision. This is it, as long as she does not have the intent to die, as long as she is willing to live. Perhaps tomorrow, perhaps the day after tomorrow, as long as it is the day Jiang Mingzi appears, he will spare no effort to seek her out, regardless of the cost. He must ensure that his counterpart from 1,000 years ago buries the life-prolonging medicine here that can only be possessed by those with great divine powers. Since he will bury it, he can retrieve it now. Tomorrow I will still desperately seek, because today I must grasp the present, pass through the past, and anticipate the future. Can the fixed facts really be changed by intervening in cause and effect? Quietly finished watching the endings of Bai De and Bai Xiaoxiao from A Love of Half a Lifetime. Jiang Mingzi also felt a trace of injustice. It's easy to kill, but hard to save. The little girl who has lost all desire for life may still have a chance of salvation just because her fate is not yet decided. But the beginning of all this has already had a result waiting for it. At this moment, Bai De has already arranged his friend's body properly. He bows solemnly once again to Immortal Sovereign. Jiang Mingzi stopped Bai De as he was about to leave and took out a cask of his own 100-year-old fine wine collection. He spoke of the 1,000-year-old grievances between his family and the Bai family. Jiang Mingzi felt sad and indignant. But the destined matter, even as the eternal myriad laws Immortal Sovereign, he could do nothing about. Even though his divine powers are unparalleled, he is just a bystander like Gao Haoguang. After speaking, he poured a bowl of wine for Bai De. He then spoke. Bai De, since our meeting is destined by fate, let me use this century-old fine wine to bid you farewell. Jiang Mingzi's eyes reveal complexity, with a myriad of thoughts in his heart. Perhaps by paying a sufficient price, one could influence karma. But even for an emperor in the mortal world, it would not be much more important than the existence of this immortal sovereign. Moreover, he is just a humble medicine man. Perhaps he is indifferent to the world, or perhaps he is just finding an excuse to detach himself from worldly affairs. Bai De, with tears in his eyes, raises his cup to toast Immortal Sovereign the medicine man Bai De, representing the 218 residents of Black Mountain Village and the Bai family, young and old. Grateful to you. Good people do not have a good ending. Is it humanity's fault, or is the world wrong? Simply mere mortals. At this moment, it has caused the Immortal Sovereign to feel a slight doubt. He raised his hand and pointed towards the figure that was gradually moving farther away. Perhaps as long as he helps Bai to return home early, everything will be saved. Although he knows that karma cannot be changed, Jiang Mingzi still made a move. Next one. At the next moment, a flash of lightning suddenly appeared, interrupting his divine powers. The sleeves of his Taoist robe exploded, leaving terrifying power traces on Jiang Mingzi's hands. This is the punishment for violating causality. Facts that have already concluded cannot be changed. Even the mighty Immortal Sovereign is powerless. A little pain can be considered a sobering experience. Jiang Mingzi sighed. He then bowed in the direction where Bai De had disappeared, with his left hand clasped in a fist. Time goes back to the year 1906 AD. Gao Haoguang dug open the soil in front of him, but did not see the Dan pill left by Jiang Mingzi. This result left Gao Haoguang feeling disheartened. He is confident that he can, in the future, find the Dan pill left by Jiang Mingzi in this place. But why can't he find it himself? Gao Haoguang glanced sideways at Bai Xiaoxiao behind him, and thought of a possibility. It's not that he can't get the Dan pill himself, but that Bai Xiaoxiao doesn't want to live. Because she will die today, so no matter how Gao Haoguang pleads with Jiang Mingzi afterwards, it will be meaningless. The world outside the mountains is indeed wonderful, with so much difference. But Bai Xiaoxiao's heart has already found its home. She has a place she desires to go to more. Before dying, Bai Xiaoxiao apologized to Gao Haoguang and also thanked him. She apologized for involving the two of them, and thanked them for showing her the world outside the mountains. She was very happy. She bid farewell to Bai Xiaoxiao, and then passed away. This world is beautiful, but Bai Xiaoxiao no longer had any attachments. Without a home in their heart, even the most beautiful place can feel desolate. The law of cause and effect cannot be changed. Even with the extraordinary divine powers, one can only be a bystander. In the end, Gao Haoguang buried Bai Xiaoxiao in A. She can jump to a place where she can see the whole city. Let her take a look at what the world will be like in the future. This is a magical daily record with its contents recorded on it. Only those recognized by the moon sigil of the Three Truths can see it. In the year 2020, inside the second Dharma palace of the Three True Dharma sect, a young man is carefully reading the content on it. After he finished reading about the deeds of Haoguang Patriarch in Black Mountain Village, he couldn't help but sigh at the cruelty of fate. Can't people really fight against it? He does not think so. Because the moon sigil of the Three Truths, the most precious treasure of the sect, was created to resist fate. It's just that I have not been able to find out how to use it. After that, the youth continued to flip through the daily record in his hand. 3 Rivers Town? The youth was shocked. Because if nothing unexpected happens, the place mentioned in the daily record is the city of Sanchuan where I am currently located. Did Haoguang Patriarch come here over 100 years ago? Just as he wondered about this, suddenly, a woman's voice came from behind him. Duan Xinglian? Are you secretly studying behind senior sister's back again? Young man looks back. His thin face was marked with heavy dark circles under his eyes, looking a bit weary. The woman who claimed to be his senior sister. It is now the 22nd generation sect leader Zhou Sunny of the Three True Dharma sect. The girl stared mischievously at the hands behind little junior brother's back. Duan Xinglian's eyes immediately showed a guilty look, evasively shifting from side to side. She saw this young man being so dishonest. Zhou Sunny pondered for a moment, and decided to use his ultimate move. He gave a cold snort, and immediately lifted Duan Xinglian's shirt, calling him a rogue. Duan Xinglian quickly covered his eyes with a book. In his hand, he also held an ancient and simple turtle shell, which turned out to be the moon sigil of the Three Truths. It turns out that these 2 treasured items from this sect were actually stolen by Duan Xinglian from senior sister's room. However, now that it has been exposed, he directly asked senior sister if he could borrow them to study for 2 days. Zhou Sunny muttered in confusion that there isn't a single word in that daily record, and she didn't know what there was to study. But halfway through speaking, she seemed to realize something and gazed at Duan Xinglian. Can you see the words in the daily record? After receiving Duan Xinglian's affirmative response, Zhou Sunny appeared absent-minded. She had previously heard the senior brothers and sisters in the sect mention the content in the Haoguang daily record, which can only be seen by those recognized by the moon sigil of the Three Truths. After a moment of contemplation, she agreed to Duan Xinglian's request. However, she has 2 conditions. One is that the time for her massages in the future must be extended by an hour. And the second is that she wants to know what Duan Xinglian wants to achieve by studying these things. At this point, Zhou Sunny's expression turned serious. He finally revealed his purpose. He wants to gain the power to kill 737 Dharma seekers. Zhou Sunny calmly looked at the little junior brother in front of her, but in her heart, she was as happy as a big firecracker. But in order to maintain the high status of senior sister, she just waved her hand casually and turned around to go to work. Before leaving, she deliberately instructed Duan Xinglian not to engage in sneaky studying behavior anymore. She wanted him to go to school to make more girlfriends. Speaking of the unreliable style of the three true Dharma sect leader, which generation did it start from? And at this moment, in the timeline where Jiang Mingzi is, 25 years before the year 525 AD, Jiang Mingzi transformed into a female Dharma body to seduce several corrupt soldiers in Three Rivers Town. The patriarch ran while shouting, "It's not bugs, it's stinky men! I detest stinky men today." He said he detested them, but what's with that happy expression on your face? But the more she acted like that, the more excited the soldiers following behind her became. However, speaking of which, did this young lady run a bit too fast? Under the chase and pursuit, everyone arrived at a large mountain shrouded in mist. Several soldiers stopped in their tracks. This seems to be the ominous place rumored in the military. Several brothers have already gone missing in this area. Seeing several people hesitate, Patriarch Jiang glanced back, his eyes showing nothing but gentleness, which could be described as quite appealing. I have to say, he is quite skilled. The official and the soldiers' bodies were taken over by their lower halves in an instant, exclaiming, "What can I use to cover this up?" Jiang Mingzi continued to lead a few people running forward, calling out perfunctorily, "Is there any immortal willing to save this lady?" But no one appeared. He found it a bit boring, and then he snapped his fingers. The heads of the people behind him were instantly relocated. At this moment, Jiang Mingzi has already arrived outside the mist. This is his destination for this trip. He wants to erase this place from the world. Academy of the River Lethe. One of the top 21 most powerful Dharma seeker sects in the world. But today, they welcomed an unwelcome guest. He stood in front of the mountain gate in a flash. A chilly remark spread across the mountains along with divine powers. "Listen up, those inside. The purpose of my visit as the immortal sovereign is to wipe out the Academy of the River Lethe from this world. The arrival of such an arrogant person has angered all the disciples in the courtyard, causing them to start cursing eloquently." Jiang Mingzi directly ignores it. He continued in a certain direction towards the Academy of the River Lethe, saying, "In consideration of our long-standing friendship, this immortal sovereign will not kill your disciples, but they will have their cultivation levels crippled, memories erased, and turned into ordinary people. After today, there will no longer be an Academy of the River Lethe in this world." And at the moment when Jiang Mingzi spoke, inside a secret chamber deep within the Academy of the River Lethe, an old man sat cross-legged in front of a massive coffin. He slowly opened his eyes and gestured for him to come in. The elderly words lingered in the ears of the disciples. They knew it was the master sound transmission technique. Since the master has spoken, disciples naturally do not hinder, and they also recognize that the person who came is Jiang Mingzi of the Three True Dharma sect, a fierce character known as the strongest Dharma seeker. When Jiang Mingzi stepped into the inner hall, that old voice came again. "I can't believe even after moving here, you could still find me." The space fell into a brief silence. The next moment, the old man turned around and showed Jiang Mingzi a cheerful smile. "Young brother, why are you so fierce? It's scary. Listening to you, it gave me quite a scare." The strange old man with very white teeth in front of my eyes is none other than Zhao Flame, the 9th generation sect leader of the Academy of the River Lethe. He is also a close friend of Jiang Mingzi. But this time Jiang Mingzi did not come to reminisce. He still appeared aloof. The immortal sovereign knows that many mortals have gone missing here recently. The old man could not fail to understand the meaning of Jiang Mingzi's words, and quickly stated that he had indeed killed some troops stationed nearby from the southern dynasty, but those were people who deserved to die. These troops were originally sent to attack the 100 Yue tribes further south. But when they found the enemy challenging, they turned their sights on several nearby Han Chinese villages. They massacred the villagers and cut off the left ears of the bodies to claim credit as the 100 Yue tribes. Isn't it right to kill such barbaric animals, dear brother? Jiang Mingzi glanced sideways. He naturally knew about the actions of the stationed troops. It can be said that their deaths are not to be lamented, but they all died from being drained of vitality. Zhao Flame's expression changed. He understood that Jiang Mingzi already knew everything. When Zhao Flame didn't answer, Jiang Mingzi mentioned another dead person's name, S1-Manhwa. It was another moment of silent pause. Zhao Flame sensed Jiang Mingzi's determination for this trip. Even if they were best friends, he would not show any mercy. The old man let out a sigh. He did not answer Jiang Mingzi's question, but instead talked about the past of several people. Thinking back to their first meeting, it was when he, along with senior sister S1-Manhwa representing the Academy of the River Lethe, brought a birthday gift to the old sect leader of the Three True Dharmas sect. But the two were stopped halfway by Jiang Mingzi, who at the time still called himself Young Master. He claimed to have 3 masters, but insisted that they must bring 4 birthday gifts to go up the mountain, as he wanted to keep one for himself. However, S1-Manhwa was a violent and aggressive character. No matter how she looked at it, she felt that this stinky kid in front of her must be itching for a beating. Unexpectedly, Jiang Mingzi was not afraid at all. He arrogantly said, "Ugly man, ugly woman, do you want to fight?" And thus, a farce began to unfold. As a result of this farce, several people got to know each other and became best friends. After that, every few years, they would make an appointment to cultivate together and carry out missions to eliminate Nirvana Corps under the guidance of both sect masters. They also share a deep bond of fate among them. Are these not enough reasons for you to spare us? Jiang Mingzi, as a brother, I beg you to spare senior sister and spare us. Zhao Flame bowed solemnly to the friends in front of him. Meanwhile, as the two were talking, the huge coffin placed in the secret room was opened. A woman appeared behind Zhao Flame in an instant. This woman was none other than S1-Manhwa, except for, at this moment, she had already turned into a Nirvana corpse. Do you know how powerful the man in front of you is? He only exerted a single divine power, and completely buried one of the strongest Taoist lineages in the world, the Academy of the River Lethe. Simply because there is a Nirvana corpse here that feeds on human vitality. And as the strongest in the history of the Three True Dharmas sect, Jiang Mingzi's mission is to divine sanction Nirvana corpse, even if he is to face his closest friend. The rain dripping down from the sky seems to accentuate the complexity in several people's hearts. S1-Manhwa knelt in front of Jiang Mingzi, helping Zhao Flame up. She had anticipated today's situation. Perhaps from the moment true blood of the karma-bound corpse immortal appeared, her resurrection in this body was already destined. Jiang Mingzi wants to divine sanction Nirvana corpse, but they want to live. Even if they kill to survive, their different stances determine that there can only be one outcome between them. Perhaps it's due to personality, or perhaps it's due to seeing everything clearly. S1-Manhwa didn't give Jiang Mingzi a choice. Although she knew she would die, she still opened her mouth and said, "Little Mingzi, want to fight?" With one soft glance, a century slips away. Familiar lands and faces no longer stay. All 3 hearts are complex. It is useless to say more now. Both sides want a frank outcome. This place endures just as before, but I lament, people change, the world no more. Memories flow like water in the hand. No matter if you grasp or let go, they seep away, drop by drop, through every crack. But the coldness they leave behind lingers forever in the heart. In the next moment, the heavens and the earth shook. Countless Taoist spells enveloped the mountains, where the Academy of the River Lethe is located. The fight scenes are truly amazing, concise yet clear, perfectly showcasing what it means to have immortals fighting. There are no familiar energy waves, no familiar verbal jutsu. Just simple black and white. But it shows the mountains and rivers breaking. The shocking absence of the sun and moon's light. The great battle lasted only a few breaths, and Shanghuan dawned, and the two of them were defeated. Even though they tried their best, they were still no match for that ridiculously strong little brat. Jiang Mingzi said nothing, formed hand mudras, and gathered divine powers. In the next moment, a dazzling ball of light appeared above Shanghuan Dan, attracting attention with its immense energy. Even at the moment of death, there was still silence between the few people. Shanghuan Dan's eyes were full of reluctance. Zhao Flame showed relief, while Jiang Mingzi could only sigh. Brother Flame, Sister Duan, farewell. A gigantic boulder fell like a mountain peak. That boulder buried the entire Academy of the River Lethe. The sky and earth are desolate, rain falling down. Jiang Mingzi stood in front of the boulder for a long time. But what can he say now? The battle has ended, just as Jiang Mingzi said before. He did not exterminate the disciples of the Academy of the River Lethe, but merely erased their divine powers and memories. From then on, no one knew the karma buried here, and the people laid to rest. The passing of time fades the traces of this place as the light and yang flow away. Tall buildings are rising nearby. And that giant stone has become a landmark of Three River City. This is a special hidden class set up within the school. They are not studying math or science, but divine powers. The original intention of establishing this class at the school is to cultivate powerful Dharma seekers. And Duan Xinglian, who is also a descendant of the Three True Dharmas sect, is a member of this class. But because this guy is too emo on weekdays, this also leads to him not being very popular in the class. However, even if people find Duan Xinglian unpleasant, they only dare to make sarcastic remarks. Because this guy, it's like he has scamming encoded in his DNA. When facing off against others, as soon as someone approaches within 3 feet of him, he falls to the ground and can't get up. For the sake of the credibility of the situation, he can even spit out a mouthful of blood for you. Little Fatty just doesn't believe in superstition. Later, he was extorted for over 50,000 by Duan Xinglian's sister. The most annoying thing is, this kid never talks too much to others. When someone confronts him, he always just says, "Want to fight?" He avoids a fight but bends others' wills. I have to say, this kid is talented, playful and lively. An old man walked into the classroom from outside. This person is the homeroom teacher of this secret class, Teacher Wu Mountain. At present, the college entrance examination is approaching, and he is explaining the key points of the exam to the students. You heard it right. Dharma seekers also have to take the college entrance examination, but after graduation, they do not go to college. Instead, they choose to enroll in the sect they selected for further study. First of all, let's talk about what is a Dharma seeker. Among the vast number of sentient beings, a very small portion of people can perceive and utilize a power called Dharma, also known as divine powers, that exists in the world. Although each person perceives Dharma differently, resulting in unique divine powers for each individual. But they all have a common title, Dharma seeker. And what is the archenemy of the Dharma seeker? This is crucial, definitely something to consider. I recommend taking notes. In rare cases, after the death of a few Dharma seekers, if there is a lingering resentment or a strong desire for survival, it may attract the karma-bound corpse immortal and leave behind the karma-bound true blood in the world. They who absorb the true blood will regenerate into the archenemies of Dharma seekers. These nirvana corpses are known as arcane corpses. And at the moment of its regeneration, even the nearby corpses that have turned into dry bones will also be reborn, that is the normal corpse. Whether it is a normal corpse or an arcane corpse, they will all have a cannibalistic instinct. They can only survive by continuously gaining vitality. Otherwise, they will weaken and starve to death, just like humans when they don't eat. So no matter from which perspective, nirvana corpses are the mortal enemy of the living. Therefore, in this era, there is an organization called the United Dharma Alliance, composed of thousands of Dharma seeker sects. Its main responsibilities include the discovery, training, and regulation of new Dharma seekers. Therefore, in this day and age, there is a United Dharma Alliance consisting of thousands of Dharma seeker sects. The organization has three main responsibilities: discovering, nurturing, and restraining new Dharma seekers, controlling and guarding the mortal world, and battling against the nirvana corpse. The Dharma seekers responsible for this matter are referred to as the Divine World Order. And Duan Xinglian's sister is a member of the Divine World Order. At this moment, she received a mission assigned by the organization and arrived in front of a warehouse covered with talismans. According to the people present, many normal corpses suddenly appeared inside, and several colleagues from the Divine World Order had entered before Zhou Sunny arrived, but there has been no news from them. Zhou Sunny felt something was wrong. If I'm not mistaken, arcane corpses should have been born in this warehouse. In this case, the Dharma seekers, who broke in hastily just now, probably are in for some bad luck. With that, Zhou Sunny opened the door to the warehouse. She walked towards the darkness. Zhou Sunny. She is the strongest successor of the three true Dharmas sect in nearly 100 years. Do you know how strong her life-bound divine power is? As she pushed open the warehouse door, what came into view was a group of grotesque monsters. Although there were many of them, fortunately, they were just ordinary corpses without spiritual intelligence. They only revealed the instinct to absorb human vitality in their eyes. Zhou Sunny casually scanned around. It's quite rare to see so many normal corpses suddenly appearing after the popularization of cremation. So she decided to take a few photos first and post them on Instagram, then forwarded them to little junior brother. Pleasant notification sound plays. Duan Xinglian, feeling drowsy during the class, quickly took out his phone to check. As expected. Sure enough, senior sister is showcasing her aesthetic of violence. In the photo, a cute girl is posing for a friendly picture with a Jiangshi, but this doesn't stop the girl from using a sword to chop off the Jiangshi's head. Duan Xinglian blushed and couldn't help muttering, "Don't play with your phone at work, hey!" These words make sense, as right now, they are also what the homeroom teacher is thinking deep down. After the teacher used a glance to stop some students who weren't paying attention in class, Teacher Wu Mountain continued with the explanation. The difference in the ability to control divine powers between Dharma Seeker and Nirvana Corpse lies in the fact that the strength of Dharma Seeker comes from the soul, while the power of Nirvana Corpse comes from the physical body. Indeed, this has created two different types of divine powers: the life-bound divine power of Dharma Seeker and the innate divine powers of Nirvana Corpse. It mainly manifests as a transformation of the physical body, thereby displaying supernatural powers on the body. This type of divine powers may seem simple, but each one is powerful. The most important thing is that as long as it is an arcane corpse, it will definitely possess them. And just as the teacher was talking about the talent of divine powers, Zhou Sunny sent a photo of the arcane corpse displaying the divine powers talent to Duan Xinglian again. The arcane corpse feels underestimated. Completely triggered the anger of arcane corpse. It pulled out the pistol obtained from the 4 members of the Divine World Order. At the same time, it controlled its unbreakable beautiful hair and shot towards the woman fiercely. But all the bullets were blocked by the sword flowers waved by Zhou Sunny. The first hit failed, and arcane corpse rose again, relying on the formidable flesh and explosive power of Nirvana Corpse. In an instant, he arrived in front of Zhou Sunny. The battle between the two instantly entered a white-hot state. Although it seems like Zhou Sunny is being forced to retreat step by step. But at this moment, her expression is surprisingly calm. But at this moment, behind her is already a dead end. She has nowhere to run. Upon seeing this arcane corpse, unable to resist, it cynically mocked it, and also boasted about its own talent of divine powers, and the power of the golden spear hair. But the response it received was Zhou Sunny's somewhat flat voice. Indeed powerful, it took some effort to cut it down. At this moment, Arcane Corpse also noticed that the woman was holding the hair she had cut from her own body. As Zhou Sunny pointed his finger down, a long and humorous puppet appeared beside her. This is her destined divine powers, scapegoat fool. As the puppet's mouth opens, Zhou Sunny throws the strand of hair he is holding into it. If the birth of a Dharma seeker among mortals is considered a rare accident, then the awakening of life-bound divine power within a Dharma seeker is a rare accident within that accident. And Zhou Sunny is the only person to awaken life-bound divine power in the Three True Dharmas sect in nearly 100 years. He is also the strongest successor to the Three True Dharmas sect after Patriarch Haoguang. As her sword light slashed across Scapegoat Fool, cracks began to appear on his body, and gradually the entire puppet started to split apart. At the same time, bloodstains appeared on the Arcane Corpse's body. The next moment, the invincible body of the Arcane Corpse split into neatly cut pieces. And the shape of the healed wound surprisingly turned out to be exactly the same as the puppet in front of Zhou Sunny. After all of this, Zhou Sunny didn't forget to take a photo and send it to little junior brother. However, at this moment, Duan Xinglian may not care about these. His mind was completely captivated by the Wu Mountain teacher on the platform. Just a moment ago, the teacher talked about meeting someone in his childhood who could fully utilize the power of talismans on others, achieving up to 100% or even 120% effectiveness. This person is none other than Gao Haoguang, the patriarch of their Three True sect. What is it like to be a patriarch who can be either male or female and specializes in deceiving disciples and grandchildren? At this moment, inside the third Dharma palace of the Three True Dharma sect, a moving scene of the reunion after a long separation of master and disciple is being played out. Gao Haoguang, who has been missing for 2 days, has finally returned. At the dining table, the three of them recounted everything they had experienced in Black Mountain Village. Ma Chao couldn't help but sigh. Heaven and earth are heartless. After listening, then he asked himself what his 3 disciples Jiang Mingzi Patriarch really wanted him to do. Gao Haoguang handed the scroll to his master. He has also studied the content here, although he doesn't understand it very well. He has guessed some of it roughly. There are many talisman runes on it, and they belong to the same series. Most of them focus on flying and tracking, and they also record 6 targets, each of whom is implanted with the karma of Arcane Corpse by Jiang Mingzi. And these are also the trials left by him for Gao Haoguang, using life and death situations to force Gao Haoguang to constantly become stronger, even awakening the life-bound divine power. Although being led by the nose made Gao Haoguang very unhappy, if he could awaken the life-bound divine power, he would endure that bastard immortal sovereign for now. After experiencing the events in Black Mountain Village, Gao Haoguang came to a profound realization that without power, one could only endure powerlessness. Looking at the suddenly silent third disciple Ma Chao with a look of surprise, he could see that Gao Haoguang had changed somewhat. Senior brothers and sisters also noticed that little junior brother was in a bad mood, quickly patting his head to express comfort. However, at that moment, the scroll held in Ma Chao's hand suddenly trembled. A mysterious energy instantly enveloped the master and apprentices. The next moment, they were flying westward under the control of the scroll. And at this moment, before the Haoguang era in 1381, Jiang Mingzi looked at the finally completed the third Dharma palace with great joy, so he decided to dance to a tune. But he turned into a woman and started dancing. The melodious singing, graceful dancing, the end of a song, Immortal Sovereign left the third Dharma palace and flew towards the first Dharma palace. At this moment, in Gao Haoguang's timeline, enveloped in mysterious energy emanating from the scroll, Gao Haoguang transformed into a silver-tongued savage. Along the way, he cursed Immortal Sovereign 100 times. And not just that, he decided to depict that fellow as a turtle egg in the daily record without fail. And just as the light rapidly approached its destination, in the not-so-distant Three Rivers town, A few children are squatting in front of a small stall not far away, focused on choosing sugar figurines. The innocent and pure playful sounds blend into the hustle and bustle of the town, adding a touch of liveliness here. As a few children leave, the stall owner, as usual, quietly watches the bustling scene before him. Suddenly, he raised his hand to cover his own arm, a look of unprecedented seriousness on his face. Just moments ago, he sensed a faint and barely detectable Dharma power fluctuation. It was the aura of his old friend, though that person had long disappeared in the passage of time. The one appearing now should only be his descendant. At the same time, in the timeline where Jiangshi exists, Teacher Wu Mountain is recounting his first-hand witnessing of Gao Haoguang's battle against the arcane corpse in Three Rivers City. The students in the class are all voicing their doubts. Only Duan Xinglian knows that Haoguang Patriarch will appear here, because he saw it in that issue of the Daily Record. A great battle that took place by the giant stones near Three Rivers. And at this moment, as the camera zooms in, a figure standing at the top of the giant stones becomes clearer. This person is none other than Shangwan Dan. She and Zhao Flame reappeared in the world, but the two of them are separated by a century. In the small town, Nirvana Corpse is actually causing trouble. The assistant magistrate in the city has offered a high reward. The assistant magistrate is inviting those seeking Dharma and divine powers to go and eliminate the evil spirits. At this moment, in the mountains outside Three Rivers Town, a divine radiance falls, and where it lands, it immediately emits a dazzling golden light. As the light fades, several figures of different shapes appear from within. It is the 4 members of the Three True Dharmas sect who came rolled up in scrolls. At this moment, they are shocked beyond measure by the strange sight before them. This is a seaside town shrouded in twilight, but in the center of this town stands a huge rocky mountain. While the disciples are immersed in the scenery, Gao Haoguang reveals a worried expression, because the scroll will only track the place where Jiang Mingzi's karma is planted. This implies that there is an arcane corpse present in the town. He looks at the others in front of him, his mind filled with mixed thoughts. Although he doesn't want to involve them in such danger, it seems he does not have the authority to decide. Ultimately, it's because he is too weak. Perhaps only by awakening the life-bound divine power can he have the right to choose. However, at this moment, the moon sigil of the Three Truths opens again, and from it comes the sneering voice of Jiang Mingzi. "Gray boy, without your immortal sovereign by your side during this time, don't you feel a little less dependent?" Gao Haoguang remained silent, choosing to ignore him directly. Jiang Mingzi pointed to the huge turtle shell beneath him again, saying he wanted to let Gray Boy see his big treasure. Gao Haoguang continued to ignore it. So, in Jiang Mingzi's ceaseless chatter, just as everyone was distressed about how to find the arcane corpse, the first senior sister on the side found a clue on the notice board. This is a wanted poster. According to what is stated on it, there is a Nirvana corpse causing trouble in Three Rivers Town. The assistant magistrate in the city is currently gathering various Dharma seekers and promising extremely generous rewards just to completely eliminate it. The discovery made Ma Chao and others ecstatic. The people here seem to know that they are coming to eradicate the corpse and even put up a bounty. They are indeed very hospitable. After saying that, the 4 of them walked towards the city with high spirits. The Three True Dharmas sect is in trouble to have encountered these 3 grudges. But suddenly, Jiang Mingzi seemed to have seen something. His gaze abruptly stopped as he saw the huge rock towering in the center of the town. Memories surged into his mind, like a flood he could not hold back. He remembered the academy of the river Lethe, and the loved one he had buried under the rock with his own hands. This caught Gao Haoguang's attention. He looked up and saw Jiang Mingzi's eyes fixed on the distant rocky mountain, as if there were some indescribable and enigmatic things in them. After several people passed by along the way, asking questions and searching. After several twists and turns, the master and disciples finally arrived at the residence of Assistant Magistrate Wu, who issued the reward. Upon hearing that the group also wanted to claim the reward, The steward of Dharma Seeker Wu Mansion immediately stated that mortal beings needed to demonstrate some skills in household management, as there had been too many deceitful individuals who came for silver coins since the reward was announced. After saying that, he then had a tall warrior summoned from the mansion. This person is a somewhat famous local expert. Before the arrival of several people, many opportunists who tried to take advantage were beaten half to death by him. But before the steward could finish speaking, a clump of mud suddenly flew from somewhere and hit the warrior's face. Immediately after, several members of the Three True Dharmas sect directly attacked his lower body with swift and precise movements, all targeting the same surprising spot. The warrior suddenly felt a blackness in front of his eyes, and then there was nothing else. The steward standing aside couldn't help but feel doubtful about life, as it seemed the experts before him were from the Crotch Slayer sect. Ignoring the stunned steward beside them, the group of them walked into the mansion in a disciplined and orderly manner. But wait, what exactly does the masterful move of high-level backhanded technique mean for you guys? This is probably the longest and most unique Jiangshi I have ever seen, with a terrifying head but a body that resembles a cat. At this moment, 2 children have discovered him, mistaking him for a stray cat in the vicinity. The children happily ran into the alley. They wanted to play with the cat. But when they saw the monster in front of them clearly, a strong sense of fear had them frozen in place. The children cried out in fear, but at this moment, their minds were blank, allowing the monster to pounce on them. The cries came to a sudden stop, and the alley returned to calmness once again. After a moment of silence, from the dim end of the alley came the sounds of tearing and chewing. The arcane corpse was quietly enjoying its feast, when suddenly it seemed to sense something. It suddenly turned around to look, only to find a dark figure silently watching behind it. As it saw the face of the person, the expression on Arcane Corpse's face clearly showed panic, because Zhao Flame had once said that Nirvana Corpse in this city cannot absorb the vitality of children and women. He was about to explain something, but was abruptly stopped by Zhao Flame's icy gaze. Arcane Corpse knew that Zhao Flame had murderous intent towards him. In a strong life-or-death crisis, he quickly begged for mercy. But Zhao Flame paid no attention. The terrifying pressure swept over in an instant, charging straight towards the arcane corpse in front of him. At the same time, a comedy of cat and mouse chase was unfolding in Assistant Magistrate Wu's mansion. The noisy commotion interrupted the conversation of several people in the courtyard. Assistant Magistrate Wu became impatient and hastily reprimanded, while the 4 individuals standing beside him were the Dharma seekers who had gathered during this period. Seeing this, the steward quickly pointed at Ma Chao and a few others beside him, saying, "These individuals also claim to be Dharma seekers, but they seem more like freeloaders." Assistant Magistrate Wu, displeased, was about to send the few individuals away. The Dharma seeker beside him reminded him that this was the real deal. With a change in tone, Assistant Magistrate Wu quickly smiled and welcomed the master and apprentices into the courtyard. Once everyone was seated, Assistant Magistrate suggested that they should get to know each other first. 2 men with similar appearances stood up first and greeted the others with clasped hands. The 2 brothers are from the Lao Mountain Dharma Assembly, with one named Gu 4 and the other named Rear Gu. Following them, a burly man briefly introduced himself as being from the 5 Element sect, known as Lil Blaster. And the Dharma seeker with the strange headgear claimed to belong to no specific sect, cultivating on his own, and asked everyone to address him simply as Bighead. In the end, Ma Chao and the others also introduced themselves one by one. However, when they mentioned that they came from the Three True Dharma sect, the people next to them looked puzzled. They had never even heard of this sect before. Only Bighead raised an eyebrow upon hearing this. Perhaps the ordinary sect members were unaware of how powerful the Three True Dharmas sect was back in the day. But unfortunately, he just happened to know. After saying that, everyone attentively scrutinized the seemingly unreliable group of 4 in front of him. When his gaze shifted to the youngest gray-haired boy, Gao Haobuang also noticed something. He exchanged a glance with Bighead, feeling a bit puzzled in his heart. However, at this moment, Jiang Mingzi from the three true moon sigil behind them spoke again. He reminded Gao Haoguang that the target they were tracking this time, divine powers, far exceeded the arcane corpse they had encountered before. The three true Dharma's sect would be annihilated here. Gao Haoguang was shocked in his heart. What kind of existence could be so highly regarded by Jiang Mingzi? Jiang Mingzi fell silent for a moment before speaking again. However, there are several prerequisites for tracking the arcane corpse mentioned on that scroll. First, there are 6 in total. Second, they are all concealing themselves in various ways within this era where the immortal sovereign exists. They are all waiting for the day when the immortal sovereign's lifespan runs out. Third, their strength is not as great as before. Even though their strength is not as great as before, the arcane corpse that appears here is not something you can deal with right now. Later, Jiang Mingzi mentioned again. I will also go to this place called Three Rivers to meet some old friends. Although he is not sure if the person who survived is one or two, he can be sure that these 2 old friends of his are no longer in this world. Now on Gao Haoguang's timeline, what appears either are other tracked arcane corpses who happen to show up here, or they are simply substitutes created by the divine powers of the Academy of the River Lethe. He was originally one of the strongest Dharma Seeker sect leaders of the Academy of the River Lethe, but he was ousted because he used living human vitality to nourish corpses. In the end, he was extinguished by a single divine power strike from Jiang Mingzi, at the brink of his Taoist lineage's demise. He used divine power's Taoist spell before his death. He left behind a surrogate that carried his memories in this world. At this moment, Zhao Flame easily caught the arcane corpse that had taken away the vitality of the child. He could have easily destroyed it, but the appearance of the successor of the three true Dharma's sect made him change his mind. He wanted the arcane corpse to go to Wu Mansion to help him retrieve 2 things. Zhao Flame was well aware that the seal of Skychase planted by Jiang Mingzi on him would eventually attract the successor of the three true Dharma's sect. And at this moment, within the Three Rivers town, Wu family's wanted posters are plastered everywhere. They cannot go unnoticed, sooner or later. They will definitely show up at Wu Mansion, so for now, let's just let this scum in front of us give it a try. After saying that, he conjured the appearance of the moon sigil of the three truths in his hand. This is one of them, while the other is Zhao Flame, but the specific appearance is unclear. But it must be a carrier that has inscribed a large number of tracking talisman runes. It is most likely made of paper or leather. Then, Zhao Flame lowered his gaze slightly, and looked at the arcane corpse in front of him. "Bind them for me! If you dare to escape, I'll have your hands and feet cut off and imprison you in a jar." Sensing the murderous intent in Zhao Flame's words, the arcane corpse quickly expressed understanding. With that, it transformed directly into a bird form. This is his natural divine power. Body of birds and beasts. He watched as the figure of the arcane corpse gradually faded into the distance. Zhao Flame reached out and pointed a finger at the chest of the bloody body beside him. The next moment, a miniature version of Bloody Body jumped into his hand. This is Zhao Flame's backup plan. He ordered this bloody body to follow the arcane corpse to Wu Mansion. He wants to know everything that happens there. If there is a chance, he will personally go and retrieve those 2 things. After doing all this, Zhao Flame turned and walked out of the alley, blending into the bustling crowd. No matter how the past was, Little Mingzi is already a legend from 1,000 years ago. He does not belong to this era. So let the past be the past. As for himself, no matter the cost, he will definitely survive in this world. No matter how long it takes, he will wait for her, wait for senior sister to appear before him again one day. At the same time, inside the Wu Mansion in the city center, Assistant Magistrate is speaking to the crowd about the crimes committed by Nirvana Corpse in recent years. More than 40 people who were eaten can be identified, and 80% of their bodies were torn into pieces. The remaining were all sucked dry and died, and his only son, who had just become a father, died in this way. Everyone was listening intently, only Gao Haoguang was in a trance. At this moment, The energy of the moon sigil of the three truths in Jiang Mingzi's hands is also running out quickly, so he sees the time to bestow the solution. Otherwise, the three true Dharma's sect might come to an end today. After receiving guidance from Patriarch, Gao Haoguang left Wu Mansion alone. The group had doubts, but did not pay much attention to them. The group continued to study how to find the Nirvana corpse haunting the city. While they were talking, the two Dharma seekers from Lao Mountain took out a copper mirror. This is their unique treasure of the Lao Mountain Dharma Assembly. As long as there are Dharma seekers or arcane corpses nearby, they can be detected by this mirror. Big Head and Lil Blaster of the Five Element sect were detected by this treasure mirror when they passed by this place. Gu For Rear Gu was bragging when suddenly the treasure mirror emitted a dazzling golden light. The two of them were stunned for a moment, then seemed to realize something and turned around suddenly. The next moment, a monster with a ghost head and bird body went straight through the two of them, and brought with it a flash of blood. This is a magical mirror. As long as there are Dharma seekers or arcane corpses nearby, it can detect their presence. Meanwhile, the two brothers on Lao Mountain were boasting about their treasures. The magical mirror suddenly buzzed loudly, before the two brothers could react. An arcane corpse with a bird's body swiftly dashed between the two of them. The sharp claws cut open the neck. A spurt of blood followed. The sudden appearance of the arcane corpse instantly captured everyone's attention. They were completely unaware that at this moment, behind them on the eaves, a crimson figure lurked in silence, watching intently. This creature is the bloody body Zhao Flame formed using divine powers. At the moment when the arcane corpse made its move, the little figure also silently transmitted its thoughts. Zhao Flame, who sensed the Tao, covered his eyes with one hand. With a change of heart, at the next moment, he exchanged his left eye with bloody body. He could see more clearly everything happening in the field. Gu For Rear Gu, the two brothers, were caught by the arcane corpse and had their necks torn. But fortunately, at the moment when the precious mirror emitted a buzzing sound, the two of them were also alerted. At present, they only suffered superficial wounds. Arcane Corpse sighed regretfully, and then turned his gaze to the people in the courtyard. Today, all those who can stand here are extraordinary Dharma seekers. Although Arcane Corpse's sudden appearance surprised them, they quickly returned to calmness because they came here to eliminate him. Only Assistant Magistrate Wu's emotions appear unusually agitated, as this could very well be the culprit who killed his child. He implores all immortal masters to quickly take him down. Lil Blaster from the Five Element sect takes the lead, performing a mudra with his hand. Several vines suddenly shot out from under the water next to the arcane corpse. This is the wood-controlling talisman that Lil Blaster had laid out in this mansion in advance. This sudden attack startled the arcane corpse. He tried to flee in a rush, but it was already too late. The endless vines covered the body of the arcane corpse, under the control of Lil Blaster. The vines began to wrap around, gradually coiling into a ball, firmly trapping the arcane corpse within. The people on the shore hurriedly exclaimed in amazement upon seeing this. But things seemed far from simple, as a loud bang was heard. The sphere formed by the wood-controlling talisman shattered with a cracking sound, and the figure of the arcane corpse reappeared in the sight of everyone. But now, he is transformed into a ghost with the body of a snake and the head of a bird. This is the talent he possesses, divine powers, body of birds and beasts. Everyone had expected this. If this monster could be easily dealt with, it wouldn't be called Arcane Corpse. That's it. Gu For Rear Gu. The two threw the talisman in their hands. This is their exclusive Taoist spell from Lao Mountain Ghost Hand. The dark blue ghost hand breaks through the air and instantly arrives near the arcane corpse. Unexpectedly, Arcane Corpse's body is tightly gripped by the ghost hand, and Gu For Rear and Gu sneered at this, controlling the ghost hand. They pulled Arcane Corpse back in front of them. Seeing Arcane Corpse being controlled and unable to move, the few people from the Three True Dharma sect also chose to take action, preparing to deliver a fierce blow to this wicked beast. But at the moment, They were casting the Taoist spell. Zhao Flame, who had been observing everything through bloody body, suddenly focused his gaze. He figured it out. The divine powers displayed by these talismans are the unique spell system of the Three True Dharma sect, known as the Three True Treasure Lending Spell. Zhao Flame's gaze gradually turned cold, and he found. And just as a great battle broke out at Wu Mansion, on the other side of Three Rivers Town, Gao Haoguang, with a myriad of thoughts in his mind, met the equally distracted Zhao Flame. But at this moment, in the eyes of both of them, both sides are just ordinary people. Without any intersections, they just pass by each other like this. Gao Haoguang is searching for a giant rock mountain based on the guidance provided by Jiang Mingzi. On one side of that rock mountain, there is a huge emblem carved with the Three True Dharma sect. 1,000 years ago, Jiang Mingzi would stand in the center of the emblem. Insert 3 large divine power spell talismans that he personally refined to help Gao Haoguang break free from this deadly situation. Later, Jiang Mingzi reminded them that with Gao Haoguang's current half bucket of water cultivation level, even if he exhausts all his Dharma power, he can only use 2 of the spell talismans within 1 day. Therefore, careful selection is needed when using them. What makes Gao Haoguang depressed is that even if he walked around the stone mountain several times, he still couldn't find the huge door emblem that Jiang Mingzi mentioned. He couldn't help but curse Patriarch's ancestors for the umpteenth time in his heart. The huge gorilla in front of him is not King Kong, but a Jiangshi that can change its body at will. At this moment, in the backyard of Wu Mansion, he is being surrounded by several Dharma seekers. He is very annoyed by this. These people fancy themselves as righteous individuals, but shamelessly gang up on him. They should have the guts to challenge him one-on-one in a fair fight. But people like Ma Chao are all experienced figures, and naturally will not be swayed by the provocation technique of the arcane corpse. Everyone unanimously decided to first beat him to half dead, and then engage in a fair one-on-one battle. Arcane Corpse is furious. The actions of these people make him feel like even a beast is more decent. If he hadn't been marked with a tracking Taoist spell by Zhao Flame, he would have left a long time ago. But now, it has no choice but to tough it out. And at this moment, on the other side of Three Rivers Town, several little Gargas approached Zhao Flame and were about to collect this month's fee. Zhao Flame hurriedly nodded and flattered as he bowed, in the eyes of outsiders. Zhao Flame has always been an honest and modest small vendor, so the local ruffians also take special care of him. They even often beat and kick him because he cannot come up with enough protection money. But at the moment, Zhao Flame's thoughts are completely elsewhere. He keeps a close watch on everything happening inside Wu Mansion through bloody body. Although the arcane corpse he sent to probe has been suppressed and beaten, Zhao Flame can see that neither the several members of the Three True Dharma sect nor other assailants have been able to threaten his strength. Even though he currently only possesses around 20 or 30% of the divine powers from his peak, he can easily annihilate the group of Dharma seekers and destroy the moon sigil of the Three Truths. But there is still a variable in the field at the moment, the man with the giant puppet headgear. This person has never shown divine powers Taoist spell from beginning to end. Even when teammates were fighting hard against the arcane corpse, he was just playing with the paper crane in his hand. Zhao Flame couldn't see through Bighead's details for a while. Unknown things made him feel fearful. At this moment, Zhao Flame's mind is filled with 1,000 thoughts. He completely ignored little Gargas, who rode on him and vented wantonly. However, the appearance of a gray-haired boy interrupted little Gargas' output. He picked up a small candy figure in the style of Jiang Cuo, the ghost catcher, from the stall and looked at it. Asked if, "I helped you solve these few little Gargas. Can you sell me these candy figures at a lower price?" Zhao Flame hesitated for a moment, then gritted his teeth and nodded in agreement. Seeing someone meddling in, all the little Gargas got angry, and were about to teach Gao Haoguang a lesson in no time. But obviously, they picked the wrong person this time. Only to see Gao Haoguang leap into the air, once again displaying the deadly techniques of the Crotch Slayer sect, every move hitting the mark accurately on the crotch. In a blink of an eye, several people were defeated and fell down. This scene also made Zhao Flame confirm that the young man in front of him is indeed a Dharma seeker. At that moment, a commotion came from the end of the alley. It turned out to be soldiers attracted by the commotion here. In order to avoid unnecessary trouble, Gao Haoguang quickly fled the scene with Zhao Flame. After several twists and turns, the two of them shook off the soldiers and arrived at the giant rock in the center of the city. Here is a stele with the name of the stone mountain, Mount Beyond the Shore. The two of them fell silent for a moment in front of this stone mountain. Gao Haoguang was the first to speak. "Young man, how long do you want to follow me?" However, Zhao Flame expressed a desire to be friends with Gao Haoguang. Gao Haoguang showed a guarded expression, questioning if a normal person who was attacked by an adult would really believe that a child could help them. Zhao Flame had already revealed his identity as a Dharma seeker from the beginning. The two fell silent again. At that moment, under Mount Beyond the Shore in 2020 AD, Shanguan Dawn in red stood on the stele. At this moment, loneliness and confusion could be seen in her expression. Since she woke up again, the whole world has become so unfamiliar. She can no longer find a trace of the former academy of the river Lethe here. She also can't find the person she used to know. She does not have a sense of belonging in this world. And every day she has to forcibly resist the pain of craving for human vitality. Shanguan Dawn doesn't know how much longer she can endure. The instinct of being a nirvana corpse constantly erodes her remaining sanity. She is not sure how long she has to be hypocritical. Clearly, killing the two children in front of you and taking their vitality is the great Tao of cultivating the nirvana corpse cult. In the midst of speaking, Shanguan Dawn picked up the two children and ran towards the distance. And just as Shanguan Dawn's figure disappeared, a speeding car drove straight through the pedestrian pathway. Yes, Shanguan Dawn once again suppressed the instinct of his body. She didn't even borrow food to replenish the already scarce vitality in her body. Save two children, Shanguan Dawn was unsure of what she was doing. And precisely because of her actions, also exposed her position completely in the view of the divine world order. Urgent notice, Shanguan Dawn's trail has been found again. All fighters of Three Rivers the Divine World Order mobilize immediately. She was the supreme sovereign of the strongest sect 1,000 years ago. Now she has turned into a nirvana corpse and reappeared in the world. The Divine World Order urgently mobilized all Dharma seekers just to annihilate her completely. The sudden overtime notice made Zhou Sunny very upset. She had originally planned to pick up Duan Xinglian from school, but unexpectedly got detained by the old man Wu Mountain. Zhou Sunny couldn't help but mutter, "Is my Xinglian a good student? Born to live off others, is that a genius?" But there are more important matters awaiting her to resolve at the moment. A person who should have disappeared 1,000 years ago. Shanguan Dawn. The Divine World Order first clashed with Shanguan Dawn 1.5 years ago. Since then, she appears every few months, absorbing human vitality. It seems that she only targets villains. The individuals she targets are typically robbers, murderers, and the like. Several members of the Divine World Order are watching the suspicious figure on the monitor while discussing. Zhou Sunny finally arrived to join the meeting with several people. When she saw the people present, she looked puzzled. Didn't we agree that everyone would be there? Why are there only 3 people here? It turns out that they were already being tracked by the Divine World Order when they were tracking Shanguan Dawn. She then walked into a blind spot of surveillance and only disappeared for a moment. When she reappeared, the target became 5, with the Dharma power signals detected from each target undoubtedly belonging to Shanguan Dawn. After they walked out of the mall, they dispersed in 5 different directions. Therefore, to ensure that the targets could not escape, the Dharma seekers mobilized by the Divine World Order were also divided into 5 groups to track them. Zhou Sunny was anxious because Shanguan Dawn's purpose in doing this was to make them separate their actions, and then defeat them one by one. However, the Dharma seekers in front of them said that they had anticipated this outcome early on. Therefore, when dividing the teams, they allocated members based on the data from the previous encounter with S1-Manhwa to complement each other's strengths and weaknesses, ensuring that each group had space to deal with him. This approach seems to be rigorous, but they overlooked a very serious problem. S1-Manhwa cannot be compared to an ordinary arcane corpse at all. Other arcane corpses become stronger by absorbing human vitality and cultivating themselves. S1-Manhwa, on the other hand, restores her former divine powers through cultivation. The speed is simply incomparable. If her cultivation level when she faced off against the divine world order back then was around 60 to 70% of her peak, then it's very possible that she has now reached around 90%. You see, she was part of one of the strongest sects 1,000 years ago at her peak. Supreme Sovereign of the Academy of the River Lethe. Who among you dares to claim that they can possess even 1/10 of the divine powers of S1-Manhwa during his peak? After listening to Zhou Sunny's explanation, everyone felt a surge of palpitations. But at this moment, they found S1-Manhwa's figure on the monitor, and several people lost their focus instantly. Only Zhou Sunny sensed the figure that suddenly appeared behind them. This is a bloody body formed by S1-Manhwa's divine power. At this moment, she is staring fiercely at Zhou Sunny. I never expected that in today's world. There are still people who understand her and the Academy of the River Lethe so well. Zhou Sunny did not reply, and opted to take action directly. At the moment Zhou Sunny touched bloody body, it dissipated. Upon flying back to the ground, Zhou Sunny immediately grabbed a colleague's communicator and started contacting members of other teams. At the moment, they are only tracking a bloody body, which means that other teams may face danger at any moment. The various teams that received the communication all reported their safety one after another. Only the fourth team did not respond because they have turned into cold corpses at this moment. Perhaps S1-Manhwa is intentionally enticing the divine world order to kill her. Because Nirvana corpse wants to live, it must absorb vitality. And she will continue to live in humiliation until the day when Zhao Flame resurrects. Do you know how powerful this man in front of us is? He was the sect leader of the Academy of the River Lethe, one of the strongest 21 sects 1,000 years ago. However, he is known for using the vitality of living humans to nourish corpses. After being annihilated by his close friend Jiang Mingzi's divine powers, he was resurrected with a Nirvana corpse body 1,000 years later. He intended to take Jiang Mingzi's grand disciple as the sole successor of the Academy of the River Lethe. At the foot of Mount Beyond the Shore in the year 1906. Zhao Flame still looks like a good old man and asks if Gao Haoguang can be friends. Gao Haoguang looked wary, as he had guessed that Zhao Flame had already seen through his identity as a Dharma seeker. What does this guy intend to do by getting close to himself? I suppose he is not as simple as he appears on the surface. Therefore, Gao Haoguang is set to accept Zhao Flame's friend request, and bluntly told him not to follow him anymore. Zhao Flame did not say much, but at this moment, a hint of coldness could be seen in his expression. Just as Gao Haoguang walked past him, Zhao Flame suddenly turned back. He formed his palm into a knife and slashed towards the space in front of him. The next moment, a sharp blade aura that was invisible to the naked eye cut through the air and attacked Gao Haoguang directly. Zhao Flame's sudden outburst surprised Gao Haoguang, but fortunately, he was always paying attention to Zhao Flame's every move. The blade aura narrowly brushed past Gao Haoguang's body. The blade aura directly left a crack about an inch long on the stone steel behind them. Sure enough, when action was taken, Gao Haoguang's heart tightened. He hurriedly questioned Zhao Flame about what he wanted to do. But Zhao Flame said the young man was actually just being cautious towards the younger brother, feeling a little out of place. Although he was smiling when he said that, the aura emanating from him at this moment made Gao Haoguang feel palpitations. This was an instinctive fear, as if facing a natural enemy. A strong sense of oppression made him feel suffocated. he seemed to be locked onto by a primordial behemoth. At this moment, he felt like he was in an icy cave, his whole body frozen in place, unable to move at all. Gao Haoguang sensed that Zhao Flame was not simple, but the displayed strength still exceeded his expectations. Is he a Dharma seeker? Or, in an instant, Gao Haoguang thought of many things. However, at this moment, Zhao Flame spoke up again. Haoguang, come with the younger brother to a place. Having said that, he waved towards Gao Haoguang and kindly reminded him. Don't try to escape, Gao Haoguang. Gao Haoguang's expression revealed an unprecedented seriousness, as he was well aware that he had no room for choice at the moment. However, just as he clapped his legs and prepared to catch up with Zhao Flame, suddenly something fell from the sky behind him. Gao Haoguang glanced sideways slightly, and then his pupil shrank. What fell from the sky was actually the 3 true moon sigil. But when did this thing leave my bag? There is a Taoist spell inside that follows its owner. It shouldn't appear elsewhere, right? Gao Haoguang is full of doubts, but now is clearly not the time to consider this issue. Next, he followed Zhao Flame all the way across 3 Rivers Town. They arrived at a coastal area. This is where Zhao Flame usually cultivates. On the way here, Zhao Flame asked Gao Haoguang if he had a master, as he found that although this gray-haired young man in front of him had decent talent, his Dharma power circulation was incoherent. Regarding this, Gao Haoguang simply said that he has no sect or school and cultivates on his own. Zhao Flame knows that this kid is not telling the truth, but he doesn't care. Whether it's true or not, Haoguang, my little brother, I, Zhao Flame, have accepted you as my disciple. In the future, you can call me master, and I will call you brother. Let's each do our own thing. Gao Haoguang listened with a speechless expression, as if saying, is he a fool? Zhao Flame laughed heartily, and then he recounted a legend about his sect. In the ancient era, there was a Dharma seeker who, through their own comprehension, wielded the life-bound divine power bloody body of heaven reversal, traversing between the world of the living and the world of the dead, astonishing all living and non-living beings. In their later years, they founded a sect based on their insights, delving deep into the life-bound divine power and transforming it into talismans and treasures, which they passed down to their disciples. After flourishing for 3 generations, this sect rose to prominence within the Dharma seeker community, being acclaimed as one of the top 21 sects of that time. Alas, it is lamentable that the 9th generation sect leader of the sect proved to be incompetent, leading to a great calamity that resulted in the sect's downfall. This sect came to be known as the Academy of the River Lethe. After mentioning Zhao Flame, he then pointed at himself, stating that he is the sole remaining descendant of this sect. The reason I came to you is in the hope that the Academy of the River Lethe can continue to be passed down. Everyone, please forgive my chatter, and subscribe to my channel, okay? Let's continue. He was originally the supreme sovereign of the Academy of the River Lethe, one of the 21 strongest sects 1,000 years ago. But he brought great disaster to the sect due to his selfish desires. 1,000 years later, he reappeared on Earth, but sadly, he had become a nirvana corpse that fed on human vitality. He didn't want the legacy of his sect to be completely lost in his hands. Zhao Flame found Gao Haoguang. Even though Dharma Seeker and Nirvana Corpse are archenemies, he still hopes that the Academy of the River Lethe can be passed down to someone. After listening to Zhao Flame's narration, Gao Haoguang had many doubts in his heart. There are too many mysteries surrounding the person in front of him. The oppressive feeling as if it came from a natural enemy made him feel palpitations. And he doesn't understand why he was chosen. Could it be just because of his identity as a Dharma seeker? He doesn't believe. Zhao Flame has never encountered anyone else with the aptitude of a Dharma seeker. In response, Zhao Flame just gave a faint smile. Indeed, due to the injuries he had suffered, he could not quickly distinguish between ordinary people and Dharma seekers. However, Gao Haoguang is the most talented young individual he has noticed in recent years. You are also the only one who may possibly explore the life-bound divine power. When Zhao Flame mentioned the life-bound divine power, Gao Haoguang first pretended to be ignorant. Then he asked Zhao Flame how he had figured it out. But Zhao Flame did not elaborate, only stating that it was related to the characteristics of the river Lethe Daoist spell. After saying that, he was about to demonstrate the techniques of the Academy of the River Lethe to Gao Haoguang. But at this moment, there was still something uncertain in Gao Haoguang's mind, so he spoke up and said, "After you answer a few questions for me, can I consider joining?" First question: can the Daoist spell from the Academy of the River Lethe provide a means of livelihood? What can one rely on for survival after joining? Second question: are you a righteous and prestigious sect? Or could you be an evil sect that has been eradicated by other righteous sects? Third question: why are you taking the time to make clay figurines? Aren't you in a hurry? Don't you want to revive the Academy of the River Lethe as soon as possible? These questions may seem ordinary, but Zhao Flame sensed an unusual flavor in them. This first question may seem like Gao Haoguang asking about survival, but what he really wants to know is, as a fallen member of the in-world sect, one would normally consider earning money, but he did not take on the Wu family's bounty. And secondly, if he is a righteous sect, why not go assist the Wu family in eliminating the evil Nirvana corpse? The final third question: with only Zhao Flame left in the Academy of the River Lethe, why did he think of reviving the sect? But he was still idly passing time. Does he not feel the urgency of time? Thus it is. Zhao Flame is also aware that Gao Haoguang is starting to doubt his own true identity. He was fortunate to directly remove the disguise. That's right. I will no longer disguise myself. I am Zhao Flame, also known as Arcane Corpse. Although he had expected it early in his heart, Gao Haoguang was still surprised at the moment when Zhao Flame revealed his true identity. He quickly flew back to create distance, but at the moment he made his move, Zhao Flame's figure disappeared in an instant. When he reappeared, he was already behind Gao Haoguang. Although he knew he was in a desperate situation, at this moment Gao Haoguang regained his composure, because he could be sure that Zhao Flame did not intend to kill him. Otherwise, he would have already been dead at the stone tablet. Zhao Flame did indeed want to take him as a disciple, but now Gao Haoguang knows Zhao Flame's true identity as Arcane Corpse. He is weighing his options, considering that if he refuses him. Zhao Flame also saw what he was thinking and directly said, "If you want to refuse, I, Zhao Flame, will not kill you." Of course, the premise is that you cannot threaten me. Even if you now have fear and hostility towards me, it will not affect my decision. For Zhao Flame, there is another reason more important than the life-bound divine power for choosing Gao Haoguang. That is because Gao Haoguang's inherent nature as a light Dharma seeker, most of them consider themselves superior to ordinary people, and those willing to lend a helping hand are few. What Zhao Flame appreciates even more is that Gao Haoguang once said, his dream is to ensure that everyone in the world has enough to eat, and every household has surplus food. For Zhao Flame, who grew up in a famine, Gao Haoguang's dream is like a fantasy. His talents and nature are much in line with his aspirations. If the Academy of the River Lethe could fall into the hands of Gao Haoguang, Zhao Flame would have no regrets. Seeing Zhao Flame's frankness, Gao Haoguang was also touched. He spoke out his final question. "Since you admit that you are the Arcane Corpse, teach me the River Lethe Daoist spell. If I truly excel in it, how can you be sure that I will not become your enemy as a human?" Zhao Flame was speechless. He couldn't be sure that there was no room for reconciliation between the living and the dead in the battle. But after a moment of silence, he seemed to have let go. Where to go tomorrow, leave it to tomorrow. This step today, even if you or the restored Academy of the River Lethe come to kill me in the future, it's justified. I have taken many lives. It's normal to have that day. And now he, as a dead man, he can no longer use the River Lethe divine powers. So he looks forward to the day when Gao Haoguang will cast it on him. Gao Haoguang looked at Zhao Flame with a complex expression in his eyes. At this moment, he could already be certain that the person in front of him was the target of the karma planted by Jiang Mingzi. but this guy's actions are constantly affecting his emotions. Gao Haoguang can only remind himself constantly in his heart. This is a monster that relies on human vitality to survive. The reason he has lived until now is at the cost of countless lives, and in the endless years to come, many more people will die because of him. Time changes. In the year 2020, Duan Xinglian also saw this paragraph on Haoguang Daily Record. Do you know how awesome the divine powers of the Academy of the River Lethe are? It can actually resurrect the dead. Travel back to the year 2020 in Three River City. Duan Xinglian secretly finished reading the entire Haoguang Daily Record in teacher Wu Mountain's classroom. But at this moment, his mood sank to the bottom of the valley because from beginning to end, the Haoguang patriarch did not mention his existence in the daily record. But senior sister had clearly told him that the moon sigil is a treasure of the sect that can establish contact across time and space with the three true disciples. As long as one is recognized by the moon sigil, they can contact its previous or next owner through the moon sigil. In that case, one should establish contact with Haoguang patriarch at some point in the future, but there is not a single mention of this in the daily record. Duan Xinglian even began to doubt whether she would be able to find a way to use the moon sigil until her death. Fortunately, the content recorded in that daily record only covers the first half of Haoguang patriarch's life, perhaps indicating that she did not appear in his early years. Duan Xinglian comforts himself in this way because at least understanding it like this will make him feel a little better. But he is not sure if he can wait until that day. It's just that the story about Three Rivers Town written by Haoguang patriarch in the daily record has left him quite emotional. And the content mentioned about the River Lethe divine powers particularly caught Duan Xinglian's attention. This is a practice called bloody body of heaven reversal. People cultivate it to transmute their own blood into a certain human form. This humanoid form will also have a trace of spiritual intelligence, similar to the level of a 5-year-old child. It will possess some not particularly powerful innate divine powers, such as the ability to exchange bodies with its owner, back up the owner's memories and divine powers, and utilize them. Even life-bound divine powers can be used, although they are considerably weaker compared to the owner's level. However, the miraculous aspect of the bloody body of heaven reversal is far more than just that. The content mentioned below is what Duan Xinglian is most concerned about. If the master dies, this person's form will no longer be controlled. After a very long period of time, it will carry the memories of the master, transforming into the appearance of the master when young, possessing flesh and blood exactly the same as the master. However, to use this technique for resurrection, there is one prerequisite. It must be exchanged with life-bound divine power. Without life-bound divine power, one cannot be resurrected. The resurrected individual will permanently lose life-bound divine power, and this resurrection can only be used once. After reading the daily record's description of divine powers, deciding to exchange a talent for another shot at life, he feels it is very worthwhile. But unfortunately, he did not have a life-bound divine power as bargaining chips. Thinking of this, Duan Xinglian couldn't help but cough a few times. The look of despair on his haggard face was hard to conceal. At the same time, Zhou Sunny, who had received the battle notification from the Divine World Order, looked through a telescope and saw little junior brother, who was kept behind by teacher Wu Mountain for not paying attention in class, muttering a few complaints discontentedly. She immediately flew towards the mission location. On the other side, Duan Xinglian recalled what his teacher at Wu Mountain had mentioned in class, that he had seen Haoguang patriarch when he was young. So he asked his teacher at Wu Mountain what kind of person Gao Haoguang was. Wu Mountain was not surprised when asked about Duan Xinglian. The old man's eyes then seemed to be filled with reminiscence, recalling the first time he saw him when he was only 2 or 3 years old, while Gao Haoguang appeared to be only 12 or 13 at that time. I can't tell at all. He would later become the demon sovereign of the lawless Tao feared by many Dharma seekers. He couldn't foresee that the petite figure would later become an almost invincible presence, surpassing the Dharma-seeking world. Later, everyone grew to resent him, saying that it was his abuse of divine powers that caused chaos in the world. but at least when they first met Gao Haoguang at Wu Mountain, he was still very weak and small. But this weakness does not refer to strength, but to a certain feeling. He was using an unknown and overwhelming spell talisman, but at that moment, Gao Haoguang's feeling to Wu Mountain was like moonlight covered by dark clouds. It was as if a sigh came from somewhere, overflowing with sadness. Do you know how extraordinary the ruthless people who have appeared in the history of the three true Dharmas sect are? The Grand Law Sage, Three-One Patriarch, the Landscape of Life and Death Lord, Sunling Patriarch, each of them are the leading divine powers of their time, surpassing the great divine adepts of thousands of Dharma sects. The later appearance of Gao Haoguang is even known as the demon sovereign of the lawless Tao, a figure who reigned supreme over the Dharma-seeking world with nearly invincible skills. However, later generations came to fear and resent him, claiming that he caused chaos in the world by abusing divine powers. When it comes to this, a hint of complexity and nostalgia appeared in Wu Mountain's eyes. Duan Xinglian timely spoke up. "Teacher Wu, it seems that you have quite a positive assessment of him, don't you?" Wu Mountain just smiled in response, indicating that he did not evaluate the positive or negative aspects. Later, with a look of disbelief in Duan Xinglian's eyes, he took out the Haoguang daily record that he had surreptitiously obtained. Unfortunately, on this daily record, a powerful Taoist spell, Wu Mountain, has been cast, and not a single word can be seen. He awkwardly chuckled twice, then handed it back to Duan Xinglian. Sure enough, apart from himself, no one else could see the contents of this daily record. Duan Xinglian stared silently at the Patriarch's work on the daily record for a long time. He suddenly asked Teacher Wu Mountain, "Do you know Jiang Mingzi? How do people evaluate him?" The old man took a deep breath. After a slight contemplation, he spoke. "Naturally, I know. Dharma seekers with a certain level of experience will be aware of this person. As for evaluations, I do not know about other senior brothers from different sects. But in our place, the old guys all evaluate him like this. Unparalleled in ancient and modern times, the strongest divine adept in history." However, while future generations discuss the invincibility of the immortal sovereign, in the year 525 AD, Jiang Mingzi rode a huge turtle shell to Three Rivers Town. Suddenly, a bug that seemed to come out of nowhere landed on Jiang Mingzi's forehead. The next moment, a wave of fear with a grievous and pitiful scream erupted from the mouth of this unparalleled figure in history, the strongest ever. It resounded through the entire night sky. One can only imagine how people in later generations would feel upon witnessing this scene. Of course, they will never know, as the eternal myriad law's immortal sovereign had already been buried by the passage of time. Who can truly know the majestic figure he once was? Old Wu grew increasingly excited as he spoke. Suddenly, he bent down in front of Duan Xinglian. He reminded with a worried look on his face. "Don't be too curious about these few people. It's easy to expose their identities as the descendants of the three true. Once this identity is exposed, what awaits him will be endless retaliation from his enemies." Old Wu finished speaking, then turned and walked towards the door. Before leaving, he reminded Duan Xinglian to call Ma Yu if needed. After Teacher Wu Mountain left, Duan Xinglian also left the campus. But just as he walked around a corner, however, he saw a little fatty from the class pulling a classmate, kindly, and engaging in friendly communication. That is also a Dharma seeker cultivated by Class 99, and in terms of divine powers, they are not inferior to little fatty who bullies him. If this were an ordinary person, Duan Xinglian would consider helping, but in his view, those who are inherently weak and timid do not deserve assistance from others. With that, Duan Xinglian calmly observed the situation, keeping his eyes on the nose and his mind on his heart, silently passing through the world of those few people. But little Gargas on the side, seeing him like this, began to mock mercilessly, saying, "That mouse, like it's been lubed with laxative, just can't stop spewing," even going as far as spreading rumors that his senior sister only entered the divine world order through improper means. Duan Xinglian had no intention of getting involved with a few individuals, but this person directly crossed his bottom line and started dancing. The next moment, Duan Xinglian suddenly turned around. He instantly appeared in front of little Gargas. Before he could even react, Duan Xinglian punched straight towards little Gargas' face. The terrifying enormous force struck in an instant. At the same time, little Gargas flew backwards. A stream of bright red nosebleed formed a perfect parabola in the air. But it's not over yet. Duan Xinglian quickly closes in again. He delivers another powerful blow to its head. Little Gargas spirals into the sky again, with his entire body spinning 720 degrees in the air for 85.5 rounds. He finally fell perfectly into the sewer. Little Fatty, who was watching from the side, felt his scalp tingling from this move. He took out 2 talismans and threw them directly at Duan Xinglian. But he was casually destroyed by her with a single finger. Duan Xinglian turned to look at several people and said coldly, "If I hear any more bad-mouthing about my sister from your mouths next time, I will have no choice but to cut out your tongues." He finished speaking and then ignored little Fatty, kneeling on the ground, walking straight towards the distance. He recalled the words that Teacher Wu Mountain had said today, and it was also thanks to the introduction by the sect where Teacher Wu Mountain is located. Just as he was thinking, suddenly Duan Xinglian's body trembled violently, immediately followed by a series of rapid coughs. The previous intense exercise worsened Duan Xinglian's condition. At this moment, his eyes were already full of bloodshot veins, hands tightly covering his mouth and nose, trying not to let the fresh blood in his mouth spray out. Duan Xinglian was eager to call senior sister at that moment, but just as he loosened his grip, the blood in his mouth surged uncontrollably, and his consciousness gradually blurred until he completely fainted. Just as he fell down in an instant, a figure in red, Shangwan Dan, quietly approached Duan Xinglian. "Do you know that the boy in front of us is only living off a woman? Does he have a tragic past?" As blood gushed out from his body, Duan Xinglian's consciousness began to blur. But he could clearly feel it. One's own life is passing. Will he really die this time? Will one silently end here? He finally ushered in this fateful day. Facing death, the boy displayed an abnormal calmness that was different from others. Because ever since that year when Duan Xinglian learned that his internal organs were failing due to disease, he had imagined countless times in his heart the arrival of this day. Duan Xinglian was given away by his biological parents. On the day he met his new parents, they reminded Duan Xinglian not to cough in front of them. Unable to cough, Duan Xinglian managed to hold it in, but tears welled up in his eyes uncontrollably. He covered his mouth and nose with his hand, silently weeping. He was afraid that his crying would trigger a cough. However, the new parents who had been unable to have children all this time still noticed the issues with this unfamiliar son. That's a problem they couldn't solve even if they were to spend all their fortune. After that, Duan Xinglian was once again sent away, but this time he was sent to an orphanage. However, Duan Xinglian didn't blame them for their decision. They are not wrong. He is the one at fault. After moving into the orphanage, his condition worsened by the day, with more frequent episodes of coughing up blood. Although he has become accustomed to enduring it, but he still couldn't avoid the inevitable outcome of being discovered. People looked at him with fear in their eyes, as if they were looking at a monster. Gradually, he began to be isolated from the whole world. Is he going to be sent away again? Duan Xinglian silently recited in his heart. He has always been the one chosen. Understanding, he has been quietly accepting it all along. But this time, he also wants to make a choice. He doesn't want to cause trouble to the world anymore. Suppression and despair filled Duan Xinglian's mind. He walked step by step towards the center of the river. At this moment, he is weak and strong. Perhaps as long as someone gives him even a little kindness, he can survive. But there was never anyone. He clung tightly to the huge rock tied to his body, afraid that he couldn't sink down, like a steadfast tin soldier, disappearing into the current of reality. But at this moment, a sudden hug from Duan Xinglian made her withered heart feel warm again. She still had them, like a beam of light shining into Xinglian's world. They were just passing strangers, but they brought a rebirth to little Xinglian. In that moment, the senior brothers and sisters became Duan Xinglian's everything. Scenes after joining the three true Dharmas sect flashed through her mind, and suddenly a strong will to survive surged in her heart. Because he hasn't avenged the great enmity of the senior brothers and sisters. So one must not die here, just at the last moment. Duan Xinglian tried to operate what was recorded on the Haoguang Daily Record. Academy of the River Lethe Divine Powers Practice Method. He operates Dharma power within each Dharma acupoint just like programming, just like carving lines. He writes Daoist spell into the body. He refines blood into treasure, and the magical treasure is named Bloody Body of Heaven Reversal. Although Duan Xinglian does not have a life-bound divine power for rebirth, he can use the Bloody Body of Heaven Reversal to interchange bodily features and swap his depleted organs with those of the Bloody Body. And at the moment when Duan Xinglian's Bloody Body formed, Shangguan Dan, who was several tens of miles away, also had a reaction. The Bloody Body of Heaven Reversal is the sect's treasure divine powers of the River Lethe Academy, the strongest 21st sect 1,000 years ago. It can resurrect the deceased. And in the present world 1,000 years after the Academy of the River Lethe was buried by time. Surprisingly, there are still people who can practice this miraculous divine powers. It all started at the moment when Duan Xinglian's Bloody Body was formed. As Supreme Sovereign of the Academy of the River Lethe, Shangguan Dan has already noticed. But at the moment, she is being chased by the Divine World Order and has no time to deal with it, so she sent out a Bloody Body to investigate. The sudden appearance of the person related to the Academy of the River Lethe shook her mind. Her first thought was Zhao Flame, but this idea was quickly dismissed by her. According to what the incarnation said, this person has just started to cultivate and cannot be Zhao Flame, nor can they be his successor. Because if Zhao Flame were to be resurrected, she would definitely be the first to know. Shangguan Dan was pondering hard, considering whether there might be any other entities in this world related to the Academy of the River Lethe besides herself, perhaps only the disciples under Jiang Mingzi. However, just as her thoughts were abounding, a sudden sound of breaking through space rang out, and in an instant, it arrived right in front of Shangguan Dan. In response, Shangguan Dan just glanced sideways slightly. The person who came was the same woman they had encountered before, who was quite knowledgeable about the Academy of the River Lethe and herself. Facing this ultra-powerful sword that arrived in an instant, Shangguan Dan just lifted her hand casually to meet it. The mountains and rivers are shattered. In the few breaths that they come into contact, the two of them exchanged moves for over 100 times. Wherever they passed, all things turned into powder. This is the destined battle between the strongest of this generation, the three true successors, and the supreme sovereign of the Academy of the River Lethe from 1,000 years ago. A missed strike from Shangguan Dan caused them to retreat and create distance from Zhou Sunny. It's not that she was not willing to confront head-on, but it was just not the right time. The other members of the Divine World Order, who received the notification, flocked to the scene and surrounded the two people. However, even so, Shangguan Dan remained composed. She stared at Zhou Sunny and asked about her identity again. Zhou Sunny casually replied, saying her name was Beauty A. The two then fell into a brief silence. Meanwhile, as they confronted each other, the members of the Divine World Order have already arrived nearby. The leading Dharma seeker even stated directly, "Today, we must ensure that Shangguan Dan never reincarnates. He wants to seek revenge for the members of the Divine World Order who died at his hands." Shangguan Dan just snorted at this, his gaze sweeping over the crowd. These people were no more significant in her eyes than the noisy insects. A group of Dharma seekers fretted anxiously, countless talismans emitting dazzling light in their hands. The next moment, the entire sky was covered by the Taoist spell. Like a shower of stars, they began to sweep towards Shangguan Dan. This scene seems breathtaking. But for S1-Manhwa, who used to be a great divine adept, this is far from enough. With just a few movements, he dodged all the Taoist spells perfectly, embodying what it means to be at ease. In her eyes, among the group of Dharma seekers in front of her, only 6 of them have slightly stronger pressure. They should be B-rank upper-level experts proficient in magical treasures. But they are only slightly stronger. The only one that she finds troublesome is Beauty A in front of her. In the midst of the conversation, Zhou Sunny erupted once again. While she threw out a talisman, her right hand was still tightly gripping a sword hilt. The talisman floated in the air, emitting bursts of blue light. At the same time, a chilling cold spread throughout. With a shout from Zhou Sunny, the chilling cold in the sky began to gather towards the hilt. Finally, a sword body as thin as a cicada's wings was formed. This is the treasure, the 3 true Dharma lending sword mastered by Zhou Sunny. Looking at the sword energy that came straight at her, S1-Manhwa chose not to confront it head-on. The cold technique made her feel somewhat strange. Indeed, in the instant she dodged to the side, the sea surface swept by the sword energy instantly began to freeze. The next moment, an abrupt iceberg rose from the surface of the sea, like a huge spear, heading straight toward S1-Manhwa to pierce through. The sudden turn of events caught S1-Manhwa off guard, leaving her with no time to evade. However, there was no panic in her eyes at this moment. A blood blade materialized in her hand. The sword flowers swept across, shattering the iceberg in an instant. The 2 women locked eyes, both sensing the other's toughness. But neither of them backed down for a moment. The surging sword aura shrouded the sea. The fierceness between the 2 in each move and technique left the spectators present stunned and speechless. This is the battle of destiny between the present strongest, the 3 true successors, and the supreme sovereign of the Academy of the River Lethe from 1,000 years ago. Just the aftermath of their battle, causing the heavens and earth to tremble, and the sun and moon lose their light. The iceberg towering on the sea surface shatters in an instant. Shards fill the sky in an instant, spreading across the entire world like shooting stars, crashing towards the ordinary people on the sea surface. Zhou Sunny and S1-Manhwa both chose to stop at this moment, as if they had reached an agreement. The 2 almost simultaneously dodged and shattered 2 icebergs. The 2 women then landed steadily on both ends of the ferry, looking calmly at each other. Zhou Sunny was surprised by S1-Manhwa's act of saving people, but S1-Manhwa said that she had killed even more. Zhou Sunny slightly bowed his head in response to this. Indeed, from the Divine World Order's attention to S1-Manhwa, there are close to 100 cases that can confirm his involvement, but without exception, they are all villains and criminals. Sometimes Zhou Sunny can't help but feel a slight agreement with S1-Manhwa's actions. However, since 16 years ago until now, S1-Manhwa's intervals between actions are gradually getting shorter, and the bottom line for taking action is getting lower. It was 2 months ago when 3 homeless men robbed food from a supermarket, with the stolen amount being only 857 yuan. When Zhou Sunny said this, she gazed at S1-Manhwa and continued. You know what I want to say, right? Habit leads to numbness, numbness leads to decadence. Human nature can change. S1-Manhwa remained silent, her expression still calm. Only her once sharp eyes were no longer sharp, but they revealed the complexity within her heart. The woman in front of him reminded S1-Manhwa of someone from the past. When she and Zhao Flame couldn't bring themselves to strike down their former comrade, Jiang Mingzi had said to them, "They were once our comrades." Perhaps they initially restrained themselves, but habit became nature. In the face of endless hunger of time, willpower has no chance of winning. If you and I were to become their comrades one day, do not hesitate. Family members will perish. Friends will break off friendships. This sentence spoken by Jiang Mingzi is very resolute. Even S1-Manhwa can't help but sigh when thinking back now. In fact, she had long realized that saving people was just a hypocritical comfort in her heart. So even if she is destroyed, she will not have a single complaint. But she will still do whatever it takes to survive. And as she confronted Zhou Sunny at the same time, several Daoist spells were quietly approaching below the surface of the sea where the two of them were. The next moment, the Daoist spell broke out of the water and surrounded Shanghuan Dan within it. These are 6 terrifyingly powerful magic treasures. Shanghuan Dan looked up, her gaze cold. She had no intention of using her divine powers. But in the current situation, she couldn't afford to hide her clumsiness. As she performs a manhwa with one hand, the Daoist spell that conceals her true face also fades away. The next moment, a surging bloodthirsty blood qi emanates from her body. Finally condensed behind her, bloody body 1 divides to 2, 2 unfolds to 3, 3 manifests 100 bodies. The 100 bodies embody the Dharma. This is the innate divine powers of Shanghuan Dan, 100 Sin's bloody body. At this moment, the strength displayed by Shanghuan Dan makes Zhou Sunny feel palpitations. And the life-bound divine power she possesses must be obtained from the body tissues of a spellcaster in order to use it. Therefore, she is preparing to wait and see how things develop, to observe closely during the battle with the elite of the Divine World Order, and see if she can find a glimmer of opportunity. As Zhou Sunny withdrew from the battlefield, the 6 B-rank top members led by the Divine World Order. They fully activated their respective magic weapons, sealing off the space where Shanghuan Dan was located with a giant clock. The pipa instrument emitted sound waves, continuously disrupting Shanghuan Dan's emotions. Several other magic weapons launched attacks on Shanghuan Dan from the front. Shanghuan Dan transformed into a dozen bloody bodies to deal with them. Both sides were at a stalemate for a while, endless explosions echoing in this space. But with Shanghuan Dan's current condition, she is not suitable for a prolonged battle with so many Dharma seekers. Therefore, she must find an opportunity to break through this large golden bell shield. Then she will rely on the previously set incarnation to evacuate from this place. At the same time, on the other side of Three Rivers Town, bloody bodies successfully found the dying Duan Xinglian. Moreover, she confirmed that the cultivation technique he was practicing was indeed the orthodox bloody body of heaven reversal. However, the person in front of her was on the verge of death. Sensing the bloody body aura, Shanghuan Dan immediately exchanged her left eye with him. She did not know where the man in front of her had learned the river Lethe divine powers. Perhaps it is indeed related to Zhao Flame, but unfortunately, he started cultivating too late. There will be no significant progress within 10 years. Don't even mention 10 years. It's likely that this young man won't even survive another 10 minutes. But what happened next shocked Shanghuan Dan. At this moment, the previously formed bloody body figurine began to regress, as if being rejected by something. As the bloody body disappeared, a beam of light suddenly lit up, and when the light dissipated, another bloody body figurine appeared before them. And this was the life-bound divine power awakened by Duan Xinglian. The life-bound divine power is a power that comes from the depths of a Dharma seeker's soul. It will manifest different divine powers and appearances based on the Dharma seeker's personality, environment, and level of understanding of all things. But the power of each life-bound divine power far exceeds that of an ordinary Dharma seeker's Taoist spell. If it is said that the birth of a Dharma seeker among mortals is a rare anomaly, then the awakening of the life-bound divine power within a Dharma seeker is an anomaly within an anomaly. Of course, this is just what ordinary people say. For a great divine adept like Shanghuan Dan, who has once possessed life-bound divine power, this is not considered unusual. On the other hand, she is more interested in knowing where the little demon in front of her learned the bloody body of heaven reversal technique from. So she is prepared to personally go and confirm this. With a manhwa performed in his hand, the bloody body transformation was completed in an instant. The sudden disappearance of Shanghuan Dan left many members of the Divine World Order present in a state of panic. Only the 6 B-rank leading members know. This replacement is only temporary. Her original form will replace back in time. So as long as this large golden bell cover is not damaged, Shangguan will be doomed today. After listening to several people's explanations, the turmoil in the field gradually subsided, only Zhou Sunny remained restless. I do not know why. Shangguan's sudden disappearance caused a strange sense of anxiety for Zhou Sunny. On the other hand, as Shangguan's original form appeared, the blood-red little figure belonging to Duan Xinglian's life-bound divine power gradually began to dissipate in front of him. I don't know if it's an illusion, but at the moment of its dissipation, Shangguan vaguely sensed a slight fluctuation in causality. But soon, her attention was attracted by something discovered on Duan Xinglian's body. And just at that moment, Duan Xinglian, who had lapsed into unconsciousness due to excessive blood loss, suddenly woke up. After seeing the face of the person in front of him clearly, he quickly flashed backwards to a safe distance. Although he was not sure what had happened during the time he was unconscious, he was also unsure why an arcane corpse appeared here. But judging from the pressure emanating from its body, this is definitely not an ordinary arcane corpse. And Shangguan also noticed that the injuries in Duan Xinglian's body have improved at the moment. It seems to be related to the causal fluctuations just now. She really lives up to being a descendant of the three true Dermas sect. Finished speaking, Shangguan took out the moon sigil of the three truths found on the little demon in front of him. Duan Xinglian was surprised, and was about to speak up to ask for the moon sigil back. But to his surprise, he saw that the mad woman in front of him was actually trying to break it. Even when Shangguan exerted all his strength, he still found it difficult to shake the moon sigil. Shangguan sighed in his heart. It seems that with his current condition, he is still unable to destroy it. Having said that, she turned her attention to Duan Xinglian in front of her and asked, "Young man, as a descendant of the three true, how do you understand the practice of bloody body of heaven reversal?" Duan Xinglian fell silent. The arcane corpse in front of him not only had unparalleled strength, but its origin also exceeded his imagination. Facing such a being, the only option left for Duan Xinglian was to run for his life. In response, Shangguan showed no intention of taking any action. She remembered that her colleagues had mentioned her name when she was dealing with Beauty A. So she asked the rapidly fleeing Duan Xinglian, "Zhou Sunny, who are you?" Duan Xinglian's heart trembled, a strong sense of unease rising in her mind. Why would the arcane corpse in front of her know senior sister's name? Shangguan still did not look at him, and said in a flat tone, "Met him, killed him." Just a few words, but they made Duan Xinglian instantly collapse. To him, senior sister was his everything. A strong hatred towards the person in front of his eyes surged in his heart. And at the moment this hatred emerged, Shangguan's moon sigil of the three truths also emitted a strange movement, which surprised him. It seems that the legend is true. Only the hatred towards Nirvana corpse that triggers divine sanction can unlock the moon sigil of the three truths. In that case, it seems that Zhou Sunny is undoubtedly the heir of the three true. As early as Shangguan knew that Zhou Sunny actually understood the Academy of the River Lethe so well, she had some doubts. And in the confrontation between the two, Zhou Sunny's swordsmanship does not seem to be authentic cold or a Taoist spell. She should be deliberately concealing her sect divine powers, which is why Shangguan chose to probe with her words just now. However, now that everything is known, she also doesn't intend to tease this little ghost in front of her anymore. She glanced at Duan Xinglian, and said that Zhou Sunny is not dead. But at the moment she turned around, the moon sigil of the three truths in her hand suddenly emitted a dazzling golden light. When she regained consciousness, her hands were empty. At this moment, above the two, a mark of the three true Dermas sect, visible only to Duan Xinglian, gradually emerged. Within this mark, he also saw Haoguang Patriarch. The moon sigil of the three truths is the treasured possession of the three true Dermas sect, painstakingly crafted by generations of people. Its only function is to break through the time barrier, allowing the owners of the moon sigil of the three truths from different eras to establish a connection. At this moment, Duan Xinglian looked at the Haoguang patriarch who appeared in the three true imprint, feeling a little dazed. He realized that he had finally activated the moon sigil. So what he sees before him at this moment is the past. Later, Duan Xinglian turned his gaze to the youth in blue next to him. According to their conversation, this person should be Zhao Flame mentioned in the Haoguang daily record without a doubt. What he sees now. It is the mount beyond the shore from over 100 years ago at his feet. Zhao Flame took away the scene of Gao Haoguang. At this moment, Gao Haoguang's mind was completely drawn to Zhao Flame's displayed strength, not paying attention to the suddenly activated moon sigil of the three truths. Duan Xinglian stared at it for a long time, and there is also a foreshadowing here. That is the green shadow appearing above Gao Haoguang's head in the picture. On the other side, Shangguan Dan noticed something unusual about the boy in front of her, which is indeed regrettable. Zhao Flame is clearly right in front of her, but she cannot see him. The next moment, the energy of the moon sigil of the three truths was depleted, and it once again transformed back into the appearance of an ancient and plain tortoiseshell. Seeing the moon sigil disappear into thin air, Shangguan Dan's gaze instantly turned cold. She realized that just now the moon sigil of the three truths was activated. Having finished speaking, she immediately surged up and rushed straight towards Duan Xinglian. As long as there is the existence of the moon sigil of the three truths and the inheritor of the moon sigil, there will be unimaginable dangers for her and Zhao Flame, whether in the past or in the future. At present, she relies on brute force and finds it difficult to destroy the moon sigil. But as long as she can find beings like the Samadhi True Fire in the future, she can easily eliminate it. And the person who inherits it, if not killed today, may become a great threat. Facing the full frontal attack from Shangguan Dan, Duan Xinglian is completely powerless to resist. However, what is unexpected is that Shangguan Dan did not go for the kill, but instead supported Duan Xinglian and hurried away into the distance. Along the way, Shangguan Dan and Duan Xinglian discussed the fundamental reasons for the irreconcilable conflict between Dharma Seeker and Nirvana Corpse, and why the Divine World Order has never passed a proposal to recruit Arcane Corps. Since ancient times, the struggle between the two has never ceased. Mutual killings have become a habit. The reason behind this may be hatred of others, the desire for immortality, or perhaps the uncontrollability of nature caused by the long passage of time. But it is not just that. More often it is actually beyond one's control. Because, no matter how strong the arcane corpse, its life and death are controlled by the slightest thought of the karma-bound corpse immortal. The king of nirvanas can erase its existence with a single thought. The karma-bound corpse immortal is the law of all nirvana corpse. This results in a situation where living beings do not trust nirvanas, and nirvanas do not trust living beings, because they exist in different laws. When being alive, killing is done for survival. When acting as if dead, killing is still for survival. Even the powerful, like the karma-bound corpse immortal Jiang Mingzi, are wary of Zen. He also cannot defy the rules, as if this is a game with rules predefined by fate. And people and corpses in the world are all puppets controlled by it with a clap of hands. The statement by Shangguan Dan, as if accepting fate, is something that Duan Xinglian finds hard to agree with. Just like his childhood self, calmly accepting powerlessness, this sense of resignation and weakness is infuriating. But what's different from his childhood is that the current Duan Xinglian doesn't accept this fate. Shangguan Dan glanced sideways and asked in return, "Isn't overcoming fate also a form of fate? If you had a future, you would understand. It's just that you won't have a future anymore. The three true lineage must come to an end today. 1,000 years ago, the Academy of the River Lethe was destroyed by the three true Dharma sect's patriarch Jiang Mingzi. And 1,000 years later, the current generation of the three true descendants once again faced the former River Lethe Supreme Sovereign." At this moment, the appearance of Shangguan Dan and Duan Xinglian instantly caught the attention of everyone present. On the side, Zhou Sunny's expression became extremely serious. She was unsure why Shangguan Dan, sought out little junior brother. However, at this moment, S1-Manhwa's cold voice, through divine powers amplifying across the entire battlefield, beauty A, this is the third time I'm asking you loudly, answer me, who are you? The crowd of members from the Divine World Order at the scene all cast sideways glances. Only Jiangshi looked worried. With many sect members around, their true identities must not be exposed. He was about to say something, but was choked by S1-Man beside him. Joe Sunny was looking at little junior brother with a pained expression on his face. Joe Sunny's eyes were filled with anger. Amidst S1-Man's countdown like reminders that seemed to be as urgent as a death sentence, she finally chose to loudly proclaim her sect and name, the Three True Dharmas Sect Joe Sunny. If you disagree, come and fight. Her angry shout echoed throughout the entire battlefield. Despite not using any Taoist spell, she shouted until she was hoarse. This immediately caused a stir within the Divine World Order. The Dharma Seekers here, although belonging to the Divine World Order, have their own distinct sects. And most of these sects are led by Gao Haoguang. And they have an irreconcilable enmity with the Three True Dharmas sect, although they are not to the point of turning against each other on the spot. But they chose to stay out of it. They chose not to participate in the battle anymore. Even those few B-rank upper-tier fighters chose to withdraw at this point. In the end, only one Dharma Seeker from Lao Mountain chose to assist Joe Sunny. Seeing the plan succeed, S1-Man released control over Jiangshi, allowing her to return to Joe Sunny's side. At this moment, Jiangshi is filled with self-blame, but Joe Sunny just smiled indifferently. For Joe Sunny, Jiangshi is also her everything. However, at the moment, it's not a time for sentimentality. In order to survive today, they must first eliminate the threat of S1-Man in front of them. For S1-Man, it's the same. She also wants to bring an end to the destiny of the River Lethe and the Three True. At the same time, in the timeline where Gao Haoguang exists, Zhao Flame suddenly asked him if he had heard of the Eternal Myriad Law's immortal sovereign. Gao Haoguang pretended to be puzzled and said he had never heard of this person. Zhao Flame expressed understanding, as there seems to be a mysterious force in the world that wants to erase any traces of Jiang Mingzi's existence, so there are not many people who know about him now. Later, Zhao Flame introduced Gao Haoguang to the first strongest Dharma-seeking master in history. However, his main purpose was to showcase the power of his own divine powers, as over 1,000 years ago, Jiang Mingzi transformed into a woman to learn the bloody body of heaven reversal technique. He then recorded some inappropriate images between him and Zhao Flame using a Taoist spell, threatening to reveal them to S1-Man if Zhao Flame did not comply. Of course, Zhao Flame would not disclose all these events to Gao Haoguang, as in the end, Jiang Mingzi did not succeed in learning the technique. Finished speaking, Zhao Flame conjured a miniature bloody body in his hand. Of course, this is just the talent of divine powers that he comprehended after becoming an arcane corpse. But it itself possesses the Taoist spell. It is also not entirely the same as the authentic bloody body of heaven reversal. It's just that it cannot activate the innate rebirth-reversing Taoist spell of the bloody body of heaven reversal. It is worth noting that although the lifespan of a Dharma Seeker is longer than that of an ordinary person, reaching around 100 or 200 years marks the end. However, the rebirth divine powers of the bloody body of heaven reversal are equivalent to being able to extend the lifespan of a Dharma Seeker by twice as much. In terms of prolonging life and enhancing longevity, divine powers treasures are among the best in the world. The River Lethe is said to be second to none. Not even the sects in the East can claim to be the best. Gao Haoguang, who is known for self-promotion, was rendered speechless by Zhao Flame's arrogance. Just as he was about to speak, a clot of blood entered his mouth without warning. This is the bloody body, a puppet formed by Zhao Flame, with half of its body. It contains the practice method of the bloody body of heaven reversal. A large amount of information flooding and made Gao Haoguang feel like his head was about to split open. But fortunately, This pain lasted only a moment, and before he could savor it, it returned to calm. However, at this moment, Zhao Flame seemed to sense something, turning to look into the distance. The next moment, Gao Haoguang sensed a sharp killing intent emanating from him. Zhao Flame turned around, smiled at Gao Haoguang, and said he was going to leave for a moment. Then his figure disappeared on the spot. In its place was another bloody body figurine. But with Zhao Flame's disappearance, Gao Haoguang felt an inexplicable unease. Who was the target of that killing intent just now? On the other side, within the Wu family's estate, everyone also noticed the sudden unwelcome guest. At present, Zhao Flame did not conceal his identity as an arcane corpse and straightforwardly spoke out. I, Zhao Flame, want to take the lives of the 3 descendants of the 3 true. Do you know how strong the boy with the strange headgear in front of us is? A moment beneath a blooming parasol can actually freeze time. At this moment, within Assistant Magistrate Wu's mansion, with the help of a group of Dharma seekers, the arcane corpse with the body of birds and beasts is being forced to retreat beaten. Although the Nirvana corpse has an incredibly tough body, it cannot withstand the relentless attacks of everyone taking turns, especially with a few claiming to be from the 3 True Dharmas sect. They also specialize in attacking his lower 3 lanes. It's true, Garen bought Lord Dominic's regards. Silencing and breaking through the defense. Arcane Corpse is in tears, realizing that he can neither escape nor kill. It seems that all that awaits him is to be slowly worn down. However, just as Arcane Corpse reaches the depths of despair, a child bursts in from outside the courtyard. This child is none other than Assistant Magistrate Wu's grandson, Wu Mountain. His appearance seemed to have caught Arcane Corpse, like clutching at a few straws of life. It turned its head and headed straight towards little Wu Mountain. This sudden scene caught the Dharma seekers in the courtyard off guard, and at the distance they were at, they were powerless to stop it. It seemed that the only hope to rescue Wu Mountain lay in Big Head, who had yet to make a move. Should we save them or not? Oh well, Big Head said to himself, lost in his own thoughts. But in the next moment, he swiftly moved to stand in front of little Wu Mountain, with a complaining expression on his face. And the reason he gave himself for acting was simple and straightforward. The riffraff in front of him was provoking him. You were the one who provoked Big Head first, oh! Big Head said angrily. Big Head continued to speak to himself, while inserting the big red umbrella in his hand into the ground in front of him. As the arcane corpse approached gradually, the red umbrella was slowly unfurled. The next moment, a mist spread out. The figure of arcane corpse under the red umbrella instantly solidified, as if trapped in a swamp. This item is called a moment beneath a blooming parasol, and its main function is to freeze time within a certain range. Such a strange scene dropped everyone's jaws, but no one could figure out the origin of this item. Only Zhao Flame, after witnessing Big Head's methods, looked solemn, and he realized that Big Head came from a remarkable sect. He can be given such a high-quality magic treasure, he must be an important seedling, and he also seems to have the potential to awaken the life-bound divine power. In the meantime, Big Head took out the paper crane that he had folded earlier. He wanted to let the arcane corpse in front of him see the tragic end, but he ignored a very serious problem. That is, within the range of a moment beneath a blooming parasol, except for himself, all things will be frozen. Big Head was stunned for 2 seconds. Then he seemed to suddenly realize, grabbing the paper crane and giving it a physical acceleration. With a deafening buzz, a violent energy erupted between the two. The terrifying power instantly wiped out the vitality of the arcane corpse. It never understood why it ended up like this, just because it offended Big Head with one sentence. You're asking for death. The crowd of Dharma seekers are shocked by Big Head's strength at the same time. They are also filled with joy in their hearts. At present, Arcane Corpse has been destroyed. It's time to claim the reward. Several members of the 3 True Dharma sect are no exception. Not only can they claim the reward, but this Arcane Corpse is likely the target Patriarch commissioned. After speaking, they are about to move forward to examine the arcane corpse for any tracking marks. This scene was all seen by Zhao Flame. It was also this action of several people that completely aroused his murderous intent. It turned out that as early as when Jiang Mingzi used divine powers to bury the Academy of the River Lethe, both Zhao Flame and Shangguan Dan had the seal of Sky Chase of the Three True planted on them. Even though Zhao Flame is no longer the original self at the moment, even if he has been reincarnated twice, he still cannot escape it. That's how it is. So Shangguan Dan must be the same as well. So, in order to avoid leaving any trouble for the past or future Shangguan Dan, he decided to take action and eliminate the three true descendants. At the moment when this killing intent formed, Big Head also sensed something. He turned his head to look at the location of Bloody Body and spoke. "The one on the roof? This little cat must be sent by you to test the waters. Why not come out and meet me?" Seeing that he had been exposed, Zhao Flame also stopped hiding. At the same time as a burst of blood light, there were also icy words echoing. Suddenly appearing is a bit suspicious, please forgive me. I, Zhao Flame, want to take the lives of the three true disciples. As soon as the words fell, Zhao Flame turned into a divine light and instantly appeared in front of Ma Chao and the others. The decisiveness and fierceness of the newcomer caught them off guard, leaving them momentarily stunned in place. Fortunately, Big Head acted just in time. He used the blooming parasol to block Zhao Flame's fatal blow for them. Do you know how powerful Zhao Flame, who is only 20 to 30% of his peak strength, can be? Zhao Flame's deadly attack was blocked by Big Head using the blooming parasol. Both sides have gained a preliminary understanding of each other's strength. After missing this strike, Zhao Flame did not continue to launch an attack. He instead calmly looked at Big Head and said, "Others can stay out of it. I won't disturb you." But Big Head refused without a second thought, because the small fry just dispatched by Zhao Flame had offended him. Then he pointed a blooming parasol at Zhao Flame and continued in a deep voice. "You are the target of the Wu family's bounty, right?" As soon as these words were spoken, everyone present fell into a dead silence. Originally, when Assistant Magistrate Wu mentioned that in recent years, 80% of the bodies of those harmed by the arcane corpse in Three Rivers Town were torn apart, while the other 20% were sucked dry and killed, Big Head had some suspicions. These are two different ways in which the arcane corpse feed on humans, and they have different feeding frequencies and quantities. The state of the dismembered corpse indicates that there are animal claw marks, which should have been caused by the culprit. And using black blood to suck the person dry is the current Zhao Flame Big Head with a confident look. I presume that you also took away the vitality of Assistant Magistrate Wu's only son. Zhao Flame did not deny it. That day, he saw the young master of Wu Mansion flirting with married women in broad daylight, so he found a remote place and took away his vitality. Assistant Magistrate Wu is not satisfied. He is very clear that although his son is flirtatious, he believes that his son does not have the courage to do anything inappropriate. He may be a scoundrel, but is that a capital offense? Zhao Flame could only sigh because what Assistant Magistrate Wu said was not false. It was just a delicacy-loving, face-saving cowardly young man who had never truly crossed the line. However, he had directly taken away his vitality. The feeling of hunger for not eating for 3 months led Zhao Flame to make a decision that was beneficial to himself and what he wanted. In order to prevent his future misdeeds, he must eliminate him now. This is the reason Zhao Flame found for himself to take action. Witnessing that Zhao Flame did not deny it, the grief-stricken Assistant Magistrate Wu directly increased the reward by 5 times, hoping that all immortal masters could seek revenge for his child. Under high rewards, there must be brave individuals. A group of people, cracking their knuckles, began to attack Zhao Flame. But Big Head and Zhao Flame both know who their real opponents are. Before the others could rush over, they had already exchanged countless moves with each other. The two groups of people seemed to be operating in different time frames at different speeds. When Gu Fourier Gu and the others arrived, the two had already fought to the rooftop. Zhao Flame leaped up and smashed down towards Big Head with all his strength. Big Head showed no fear at all. At the same time, he used the blooming parasol to block. He gripped the umbrella handle tightly and suddenly jabbed it towards the eaves. The next moment, a wave of ripples appeared and mist filled the air. At the flickering of a blooming parasol, he launched again. Zhao Flame was prepared for this. He used the blood blade in his hand to stop his figure, and swiftly retreated beyond the range of the blooming parasol. Zhao Flame leaped up again after turning around. He leaped onto the umbrella canopy. Big Head's magic treasure is indeed magical, but its drawbacks are also very obvious. It can only affect things covered by the umbrella canopy, without any extra movements. Zhao Flame lifted his leg and fiercely stomped on the blooming parasol. The eaves were shattered straight through. The two parties then fought from the rooftop into the house. Immediately after, the two engaged in another round of fierce fighting, with blades flashing suddenly. Wherever they passed, all was a scene of devastation. The two individuals returned to the ground once again. The two exchanged blows for thousands of moves without a clear winner. But not a word was spoken. This is probably what it means to be a strong person able to perfectly interpret what a thrilling battle is without the need for flashy words to create an atmosphere. The spectators outside were shocked by the battle between the two, making their scalps numb. They even started to consider if they were not really suitable for the profession of Dharma seeker. Just as the few people were talking, there was a huge bang, and the doors and windows shattered with a loud noise. The battle between Zhao Flame and Big Head is still ongoing. The entire Wu mansion seems to have turned into the battleground for the two of them. There's no room for others to intervene in their battle. After a series of twists and turns, Zhao Flame and the two of them landed on the lotus pond. Big Head flicked his sleeve and summoned several small paper-folded beasts. The paper cranes used to deal with the previous small fry are identical. As Big Head performs a manhwa, these small creatures seem to come to life. They head straight towards Zhao Flame. But as soon as they arrived in front of Zhao Flame, they were slashed by the blades danced by it. With the disappearance of the little beast, the battle between the two finally came to a momentary halt. At this moment, Big Head's breath seems a little hurried. Repeatedly using divine powers has left him a bit overwhelmed. On the other hand, Zhao Flame still appears to be in complete control. Is Big Head intentionally approaching the three true Dharma sect in order to lay the groundwork for the next karmic battle? At this moment, everyone in Wu Mansion is shocked by the battle between Big Head and Zhao Flame. Only Lil Blaster from the Five Element sect is watching the two of them with a silly smile. Everyone looked to the side one after another, thinking that this big guy might have turned his brain into a pill. But what they saw was a manhwa performed in his hands. The next moment, deep in the lotus pond, several talismans suddenly burst into dazzling light. This is the wood-controlling talisman he had placed here in advance, under the control of Lil Blaster. The vines instantly created by the talisman enveloped Zhao Flame. In just a few breaths, Zhao Flame's figure disappeared from the field, leaving behind only a cage formed by the vines. Everyone was overjoyed. They all stepped forward eagerly, wanting to capture Arcane Corpse in one fell swoop. Big Head hurriedly tried to speak up to stop them, but the several leaders completely ignored him. Big Head, feeling helpless, because this was indeed a rare opportunity, said nothing more. With that, he flicked his blooming parasol in hand. The few people quickly arrived at the front of the Tangman cage in an instant. However, just as the two were getting close, a sharp knife edge cut across. The cage that trapped Zhao Flame instantly turned into powder. And the two men Gu 4 and Lil Blaster, who were rushing at the front, were also directly beheaded. Zhao Flame muttered to himself, "You guys are like a spoon in a sword fight, completely useless." Rear Gu's eyes were about to split, and Gu 4's and Lil Blaster's downfall was like a bucket of cold water poured over everyone's hearts. But it's not over yet. In the moment when Zhao Flame broke free from the restraints, A moment beneath a blooming parasol had already arrived at the top of his head. In the mist, Zhao Flame seemed to be trapped in a swamp.